My cat is rubbing up against the microphone, so you might
That's
hear a little
fine.
bit of that.
My dog is in front of me
She
because
was laying down the
it's
whole
raining.
time we were bullshitting. She was laying down, and then like the moment we go back to record, she's like, "Oh hey, what's going on? I got
Well,
opinions."
the cat is so curious because we're here to talk about Ty West's Pearl, the prequel to
Oh,
X.
oh no, Diego, you got the wrong information.
Oh no!
Oh no, we're here to talk about Michael Bay's Pearl Harbor.
Oh, oh wait, we're doing failed award contender season 2.
Yes, we're doing failed award contenders season 2.
Oh no!
Please welcome the wickedly talented one and only Adele Dazeem.
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth!
There's a mistake. Moonlight, Best Picture.
What are some other like crazy Oscar moments? None in the last year. None whatsoever in the last year.
I don't know if I can play that one.
That will, yeah. You might have to, considering some upcoming episodes.
You know what? For that one, I will.
Yeah, we'll save that. There's a little window into what might be happening.
Well, for this one, I don't have like a quote from the person.
All right, no,
Like-
here's
like
another
a-
one. Here's another one you could do. The guy coming on stage to announce that actually Moonlight won.
Oh yeah, that was my other one I thought of.
That's a pretty good one. There was the Streaker the one year.
Oh yeah.
Back in like the 70s. There is the famous, I think, 1990 Oscars that is like has the worst opening ceremony of all time. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't think I've seen that one.
It's the one where like they got some guy who had done like a stage show in LA called Beach Blanket Babylon. You ever heard of this?
No.
It was like a really like, oh, here's a really wacky take on the entertainment industry. And they're like, hey, you choreographed the whole opening ceremony. And he did like this insane 10-minute thing where like Snow White was in the opening.
Oh my
And
god.
it's like considered like a complete train wreck and everyone hated it. But it also kind of like gave birth to the modern Oscars as we know it. Like it's like the structure kind of came from that. But people learn the lesson not to do openings like that anymore.
Yeah.
Afterwards,
we should just cut all skits actually from the
yeah, we
Oscars,
really
too.
should. But
no one likes them.
No one does. No one likes the skits. I mean, like maybe you could get away with the whole what is it? The opening thing where like they edit the host into a bunch of movies.
Yeah, you know what?
Like,
I'm gonna be honest. I think that's pretty fun.
Yeah. Oh, so you were a big fan when Billy Crystal did blackface in his last one?
Right.
You don't know? Does anyone remember this?
Should that be the opening?
I don't think we can do that one
No.
for reasons. You can show in the same montage, he showed up with his face on Tintin's face from the Adventures of Tintin.
Oh.
Because that was a big movie that year, I guess.
Well, it kind of was.
I mean, I think we both like Tintin. I think the world kind of rejected Tintin though. And the world definitely rejected Billy Crystal Tintin because it's nightmarish. But
does the world reject Michael Bay? I think this is a genuine question we have to ask ourselves. The one quote I was going to open with, I actually want to hold off for a second.
Okay.
Because here's from the same article I'm pulling the quote from. Here are some other artists who had some words about Michael Bay. From a GQ article called Michael Bay Oral History from 2011. Gabrielle Union from Bad Boys 2 said, you know, when people talk about the very first time they did drugs, being in a Michael Bay movie was like my drug. It's like I'm chasing the dragon, and I've been chasing that experience ever since. James Cameron said, I've studied his films and reverse engineered his shooting style. He loves what I call the big train set. Huge physical production, just as I do. It is the most challenging type of filmmaking, and he does it gorgeously. Steven Spielberg. He has the best eye for multiple levels of pure visual adrenaline.
Mhm.
John Turturro. He likes blowing things up.
I mean, he's not wrong.
I know, but that's it. There's a bunch of other quotes in there. There's two more from George Lucas. Michael's films are immediately identifiable. Here's from Michael Bay himself. I'm like a true American.
All right.
And here's the official quote I was going to open up the episode with. All right. The same article. Michael Bay. I don't change my style for anybody. Pussies do that. End quote.
Okay.
Anyways, let's talk about Pearl Harbor.
Let's talk. I was gonna read a headline I remember from back in the day, from also the same year, from 2011, from the most venerable newspaper in the country, The Onion, which was "Nation somehow failed to predict terrorist attack by Michael Bay." Which is basically like, clearly this guy was obsessed with blowing things up. How did we not see it coming? There's also a pretty funny one I was looking for. It. The other one I found was Michael Bay signs $50 million deal to fuck up Thundercats. Which is around the time, remember, that was from around the same time he signed on to produce the Ninja Turtles movie.
Yeah.
Remember this?
I do.
There was that weird ass press release where it was like it's gonna be Ninja Turtles, but they aren't gonna be mutants and they aren't gonna be teenagers. Do you remember this?
They're gonna be like aliens or
they were
something.
Gonna be aliens. And it like got such a negative reaction that then like they just clearly put all that back in, but like had no one involved in the project who wanted to do it, so they just made a shitty movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
and
I'm not
like
saying
that movie didn't stop changing until release, basically.
Yeah, it was one of those.
I mean,
that's
the cast talks about it like it's a nightmare.
Yeah, the one guy gave that interview where he was like, it was the worst experience of my entire life was working on that movie.
Yeah.
And he was like, and they basically like shanghaied us into doing two of them, you know, like that. They tricked us into like staying on set longer. Like it was like everything you don't want to hear about a movie. And it looks like the guy who directed the first one, that was the last movie he made. Who
was that? I don't even remember.
Jonathan Liebsman, who did Battle Los Angeles and Wrath of the Titans. He's also an uncredited director for the reshoots on Doolittle.
Well, there's like 5 uncredited directors on that one. But I did not know that. I thought he was like working still. Oh
no, it
he
looks
shot
like
some of the Halo episodes.
Yeah, but that's not real. So
no, it's not. But he's working. I'm just shocked because he was like, that was one of Michael Bay's guys. He does like Darkness Falls and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning, which are like under the Platinum Dooms banner.
Yeah. How did Halo take so long to get turned into anything? Really?
I have no fucking idea. It so clearly should be a movie.
Is Spielberg's name still on it?
I don't think so.
No, it says here, executive producer Spielberg.
Probably just because like he funded like so much of the initial production.
Yeah, it's a legacy thing. Like, he was there when they first signed the deal.
Yeah, it's like Colin Trevorrow's episode 9.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's an executive producer on it. He's not.
But he's not. You know, but it's weird because that's the thing where like the first iteration of the movie was with Neil Blomkamp, right? Like that was gonna be his thing. It fell apart, and then they turned that into District 9, which is like kind of one of the like better examples of like why maybe franchise filmmaking shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
But you know what's weird about that to me is I think the Halo movie fell apart after the release of Halo 3. Remember?
Yeah.
But like, what's the reason was the studio's like, it'll be too expensive and we don't think there's an audience there. And it's like, did you see the hype for the release of Halo 3?
Yeah.
Like, they did news events about it. Like, it was a Star Wars when Halo 3 came out, you know? It was one of the biggest things ever. That movie was like a $500 million at least guaranteed.
Yeah.
And fucking whatever studio was like, we don't think there's enough people out there that will see this. And then like it took them fucking like 15 more years to get something made.
Yeah. And now the Halo brand is like just
now it's been like
dirt.
it's like, I guess we're doing another Halo. Like,
yeah, like Halo Infinite, a game I have played online, is fun, but like no one cares about the actual like story anymore, which is like I'm not arguing for the sanctity of Halo, the franchise, or anything like that.
Yeah.
I'm just declaring that like no one really goes to it for that anymore.
Yeah, it's not, it honestly, it's not like what Uncharted is at this point, you know?
Yeah.
Like Uncharted, it's probably if they do one or two more Uncharteds, that'll lose its luster, but it's like that's still kind of a like, okay, that's a solid series of video games for what they are, you know?
Yeah.
And Halo, you know, those 3 games are like still kind of like groundbreaking games, those first 3. And then like everything
I
since
would
then,
argue 5, but I don't want to get into the whole weeds thing. I think the first 5 games are like real rock solid shooters.
So like you would include like ODST and Reach.
Yeah, ODST is basically DLC. But
yeah,
like,
that's the thing.
The narrative of it is actually surprisingly strong. And
well, that was the thing I was going to ask was, did you include that or did you include Halo Wars?
ODST. Halo Wars is fine.
Yeah.
I like RTSs, so it's not that. It's just I don't think that one comes together.
I'm surprised they never, because there's a Halo Wars 2. I'm surprised they never tried to do the let's spin Halo off into like a multimedia thing, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe maybe a movie would have helped that, you know? Like,
yeah. Michael Bay's Halo.
I mean, I don't know. I think all those quotes are fascinating about Michael Bay that you read, right? And it's this thing of like, I think Michael Bay is still widely hated by the general public, you know?
Yeah.
Like most people hate him because most people paid to see Transformers 2 in theaters.
He's the butt of a joke in Entourage.
Yes.
Entourage. Like that's Entourage is making fun of him.
Yeah. And I mean, but he's also the butt of the joke in like everything, you know?
Yeah, no, he is, but like Entourage.
Yeah, all right. I get where you're going with that. But I'm just saying, like, it's one thing for Entourage, because Entourage is like kind of, I have never met anyone in my personal life who likes Entourage. But clearly they exist out there, right?
I mean, here's the revelation. It's a guilty pleasure. It's fucking trash. It's my Sex in the City, which means in my heart, I am a frat bro. But
that's unfortunate to learn about you. Honestly, that really is. I don't know if you needed to tell me that.
No, like it's a disgusting show, but I get a kick out of it because I never want to know people like that in my real life.
Okay.
However,
but like, but also I will say I do know a surprising amount about Entourage, considering I hate it. Like, it's like I know that Michael Bay's reference on it. I know that James Cameron was on it. Like,
yeah,
it's the cameos on that are insane. I know there's a whole subplot in the one season about dating the actress who played Tony Soprano's daughter, Meadow Soprano.
Oh yeah.
Which is like every time I think about that, I just want to vomit. But yeah, no, I do not. I do like talking about it because it is like kind of a distillation of everything wrong with the world.
Oh no, it totally is. You know,
which I guess is also some of the appeal of Michael Bay when you talk to certain people.
Yep.
You know, I don't know if I follow everyone there.
Okay.
But it's also something where like I can't deny like he can direct the shit out of stuff, you know? Like he's a talented filmmaker. I can never deny that, but I just don't like it. You know, It's one of those where like I'm just not. Although Ambulance is on my list of movies to watch before I like make a definitive end of the year list.
Yes.
I want to give it a shot. Because I like Armageddon and The Rock enough, like, and I need to rewatch the Bad Boys movies. Those have been on my list to rewatch because I feel like I might enjoy those. I think he was just in Transformers world too long, and I have like no affinity for the Transformers, and I have no affinity for Michael Bay's take on the Transformers. So there's nothing really to bring me back there. And then like his other movies, Pain and Gain, I didn't like, and Six Underground just didn't work for me. But I only watched about half of Six Underground. Also, his movies are really long, so like
they're always too long. That's just a thing that happens with him.
And and they also tend to have at least one or two actors in it that are like, you have to put a fucking gun to my head to make me watch that movie. Like Pain and Gain had Mark Wahlberg. Six Underground has fucking Ryan Reynolds, who's not like awful, but like he's not one of those people I see and I'm like, I gotta see that movie now. Like,
well, he's a good actor who's kind of fallen into a shtick, unfortunately.
Yeah, it would kind of be like if Robert Downey Jr. did make multiple movies around Iron Man and he just talked like Iron Man in all of them. Well, I mean, like, to be fair, like his Sherlock isn't Tony Stark.
Yeah.
You know?
He's doing something different. He's got an accent.
He's got a thing going on there. So, and Ryan Reynolds is just Deadpool in every movie now. And Deadpool is the worst thing he could be. So, it's weird he's in Netflix world. I feel like that's wrong in a lot of ways.
I do too.
But also, Ambulance came out like bombed horribly. So, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what people want anymore.
Yeah.
Because Pain and Gain made money. Like, it wasn't a massive hit, but it did make money. And I guess we're just like, now you just kind of can't release these type of movies anymore. And it is a thing of like every fucking dollar's on the screen when you watch a Michael Bay movie.
Absolutely.
And it's you aren't watching a guy phone it in. And I get that he's like a great anecdote to this weird like assembly line era of movies we live in, right?
Right.
Where you get movies from 6 different directors and they all look the fucking same. But like you put a Michael Bay movie on, it looks like a Michael Bay movie. And I get that. It's just not my jam. And maybe I'm not totally inspired. Like, I quoted it on the Avatar episode, like the highest purpose of art is to inspire, and I'm never really inspired by special effects driven movies, and I guess this is one of the things where like, it's maybe just because as someone who thinks about the craft of filmmaking enough, like that stuff is just out of reach, like there is no hypothetical where I would ever be doing anything on the scale of Transformers 2, right? So I don't think about it. So maybe that's why I don't engage with it as well, which is an entirely subjective thing. But it is something where like I get why people defend him. I think there's now a loud enough group out there that he's in the canon. You kind of have to reckon with him on some level. But I'm not one of those people. But I'm not going to stop anyone from doing it either. So, but man, Revenge of the Fallen is one of the worst things I've ever seen.
I think 4 might be worse.
Revenge of the Fallen was one where I was like, I'm not doing any more of these.
Yeah.
Like
I get that.
And also like there is kind of a benefit to just like, don't see the movie, watch the clips on YouTube, which I've done. And I'm like, yeah, I like that. That's an impressive thing right there. The guy's jumping out of a helicopter as it explodes. Like, yeah, that's pretty cool. It's like Transformers falling through the sky. Optimus Prime shooting a guy in the back. Like, that's all good. It's not something I want to give 3 hours of my life to. But hey. The last one kind of bombed though, right? That he did.
Yeah, it made
Like-
like 600 million, but they were so used to making like over $1 billion by that point.
Yeah,
that it
it's
was
a
like,
weird.
hey,
Yeah, it's a weird. Like it dropped 50%, which just doesn't happen.
mhm.
Um,
And I've said it before on the show, and I'll say it again. Like that last one, though, like talk about like every dollar on the screen. Like it at times, it does feel like the biggest film ever made.
Hmm.
I cannot recommend it to another human being.
okay, but that was also the one where like they were gonna try and set up a Hasbro cinematic universe, right?
Yeah, so they had
Right.
that writer's room.
Mhm. We've
Like-
talked about this on the show.
Yeah, but it's worth bringing up again. It's so fucking funny. Bless you, by the way.
Thank you.
Where they're like, yeah, we're gonna have all these spin-off ideas, and then Michael Bay was like, yep, but what if we just fucking put them all in this movie?
Mhm.
What if we just make this the biggest fucking movie ever? And you know, it certainly feels like it.
All right, I have not seen it, so I can't.
That doesn't
I
mean
can't
it's
judge.
good, but I like it.
The coolest thing about those Transformers movies is that like it gave Peter Cullen this weird like late era boost
Mhm.
as just a voice actor.
Yeah, and then you get to hear him go, "I'll kill you all,"
Yeah.
which is like, yeah,
Yeah, that's what I like about Optimus Prime.
that's definitely an American hero right there.
Yeah.
That's
It is
not
weird
a good
though
or a
that,
bad
like-
thing. It just is a declarative statement.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing. I get like people are like, yeah, he's like pure America. And it's like, yep, you're probably right. I don't know if I find it that engaging, you know.
Mhm.
And I don't know, there's something, maybe I'm just like, it is that like there is a dumb part of me that's like, yeah, America's fucked up, but I do still kind of like America. And when I say that, I don't mean my government, but I like the people of America. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm. Yeah.
Like I really think that when if you put a gun to my head and say what's one good thing about America, I would say the people.
Mhm.
I ultimately like most of them, but I don't think Michael Bay likes people. So
I would agree with that.
that's probably where my line is truly drawn.
Mhm.
But hey, Peter Cullen was the Toonami guy for a while.
Oh, what?
Not the robot, not
Oh.
Tom, the robot. He's the guy that like when the commercial would play.
Oh, yeah.
And they'd be like, Goku and his allies must face the tree of life. Like that was him. Like
Was
the
that an
world
actual
television
plot?
premiere of that was probably the best shit that happened when we were younger.
Yeah. Yeah. We're coming off 9/11 and shit. So
Hey, a lot of that's pre 9/11, so they were getting us ready.
yeah.
But
And
Peter
then
Cullen knew
two
what-
tragedies happened in 2001.
Yes.
One was 9/11. The second was the release of Michael Bay's Pearl Harbor.
I'm glad you made that joke.
Yeah. It's an
Uh,
obvious one.
here's a really grim question I want to ask you.
Oh boy.
Did Michael Eisner, the head of the Walt Disney Company, or Jeffrey Bruckheimer, the producer of this film?
Jerry Bruckheimer.
That's what I say.
Jeffrey.
Oh, did I say?
It
you know,
sounded like Jeffrey. Maybe I'm
all
just
right.
fucking.
I
hitting shit.
might have been like I was about to say Jeffrey Katzenberg because I usually say that when I bring up Michael Eisner.
Yeah.
So Jerry Bruckheimer on 9/11 when it happened, and they're like, "Oh my God, like this is the worst thing to happen to America." And then like once like the shock wore off, were they like, "Yeah, but now everyone's gonna see Pearl Harbor."
Yeah, they were like, we're gonna make so much
We're gonna
fucking
make
money.
so much fucking money. It's like that, like they almost were like 9/11 is gonna help this movie. Did anyone in Hollywood have that thought?
They had to have.
I mean, it seems like something that would happen, right?
Yeah, look, there are producers out there that are genuinely like interested in the arts and like nurturing talent, whatever, right? I'm not talking about quality of character. I'm just saying that. However, I have to imagine those people in particular were like ravenous, blood-sucking fiends who were like, we're gonna make this movie that like you support this movie, you support America.
Yeah.
And it still bombed.
Yes, it bombed. It's like one of the biggest. I mean, it made nearly $500 million. Like, it was a financial hit. It just wasn't an awards hit.
Yeah. Well,
And-
okay. It here's the thing. So it was teed up to be like This is
was
kind of
gonna
a
be-
failed blockbuster too, but this was gonna be like the next
It was Titanic. Yeah, it was Titanic too. Like it's 100% that. Like that's what I mean. It hits so many beats of Titanic, right?
Yeah.
Like it is just trying to it even ends with a song that might as well be My Heart Will Go On.
Yep.
Like it is basically that. I'm surprised they didn't just reuse My Heart Will Go On.
Mm-hmm.
It is so much that. And it also has this like radiating effect where like it kind of it ends the Bruckheimer Bay relationship. Like they never work together again.
Yep.
And that's what gets Michael Bay into the Spielberg orbit. And that's what leads to The Island, which we covered,
Mm-hmm.
and eventually Transformers, which led to the nadir of cinema. But
But you skipped over the pivotal one.
well, Bad Boys 2. I know like I said, I haven't watched those in forever. So like
Bad Boys, you might like that like as a normal movie, you might not. Bad Boys 2, like that is the quintessential text of post 9/11 America.
Okay. I'm sure Tony Scott didn't do it better.
Well, this is like accidentally
That's my thing.
satirical.
Like here's the thing about Michael Bay for me is that every time someone points out something they like about Michael Bay, I'm like, yeah, but Tony Scott did it better.
That's true.
Like
That is
I'm
absolutely true.
That is the 3 films he makes after 9/11 are all 9/11 movies, and they're perfect. And it's Man on Fire, which is just a pure revenge film, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the emotional response to 9/11. And then there is Domino, which is like America's just id.
Yeah, it's just fractured and broken and it's trying to reassemble itself.
It is just like, this is, oh shit, we went into Iraq and we fucked up. Like, this is the first wake up call that we've gone too far. Like it is we fucked up. And then Deja Vu, which is the romanticism of 9/11.
Deja Vu is so fucking good.
Deja Vu is fantastic. It's insane.
Yeah.
It's his vertigo.
When I rewatched that, I was like, why didn't I give this 5 stars like for my entire life?
I kind of have that with Tony Scott too, where like I will watch his movies and be like, yeah, it was fun, give it like 3 stars, 4 stars. And then when I rewatch it, I'm like, wait a minute, this is incredible. When did Spy Game? Spy Game was 2001, and it came out after 9/11. I'm sure that fucked it. Like, I'm sure that, $115 million budget on 143 million. That's kind of. I guess we could do that for the show then.
Yeah. Well, that's a failed blockbuster, not award contender.
There are no failed award contenders, unfortunately, for Tony Scott.
In my heart, they all are.
Yeah, same. Why didn't the last Boy Scouts sweep?
It's better than Citizen Kane.
We have to do Domino first because that is like a out and out bomb.
Yeah,
and it's insane.
Yeah, and people don't like it, but they're wrong.
Yeah, you gave it a bad review at one point.
Did I?
I remember like texting you because I just rewatched it, and I was like, Domino, undisputed American masterpiece. And then I looked up what other people were saying, and you were like, not good on Letterboxd.
Are you sure?
Let me double check. I mean, now it says 5, so maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was a 5.
I viscerally remember texting you being like, why didn't you give this a higher rating? Because I was angry.
Are you sure? Maybe that wasn't me.
No, you're the only person I talk about Tony Scott with.
Are you sure it wasn't like Ethan or something?
It wasn't Ethan, because Ethan doesn't have it logged.
Yeah, no, I got 2 5 stars for it. I don't remember doing it lower.
Let me check. Maybe I said it on Twitter, so maybe I can find it.
Yeah. Maybe at one point I had it like at the cowardly 3.5 or 4, but like I bumped it up.
Yeah, I know you have bumped it up. I was gonna give you that you have certainly at some point bumped it up.
Yeah.
But
and like now that we're here, like I know people are coming around to it because when I first logged it on June 16th, 2017, I had like a measly 2 likes on it,
Mm,
like maybe even 1. Now
yeah.
I have 30. So people are discovering Domino every day.
I think that's people are discovering Tony Scott every day. And I think a big part of that might have been that like Tarantino went all in on him on that podcast.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah, that's
Tarantino's
true.
like out there being like Tony Scott's #1 fan.
Mhm.
And it was, and we talked about in the True Romance episode where people would be like, that was my favorite Tarantino movie, which is almost insulting to Tony Scott. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, it's a Tony Scott movie. But hey, God, yeah, just what a fucking stacked fucking filmography on Tony Scott's part, you
I
know?
know.
Like I said,
know.
that's just my thing, is just that Michael Bay, sure, yes, it's all on the screen. There's a lot of money on the screen. He's very good at using that money. He never phones it in. There is something undeniably fascinating about him, and it's good for me in chunks. But in terms of like what I like about movies, whatever I like in his movies, I can get better out of Tony Scott stuff, you know, which, you know, maybe isn't fair, but fuck it. I mean, it is kind of, like I said, it is kind of sad that like he is now in this weird like rut, you know, that he basically changed all of cinema like twice, and now he's a joke. And like Pain and Gain I didn't like, but it did at least point to like him stretching a little bit, you know, like, and maybe he could do something good. I have yet to see 13 Hours.
I don't overwhelmingly love 13 Hours.
Hmm.
I think it's one of the best looking movies of the
or
last
maybe I
decade.
did see 13 Hours. I don't even remember. That was one I know I didn't see it in theaters because there was like, because it was the fucking Benghazi movie.
Yeah, and they're like psychopaths in the theater.
Yeah. And but then like it was that weird thing where it like wasn't really a Benghazi movie. Like it wasn't like the insanity people thought it was gonna be.
Yeah.
But who knows? But yeah, and like I'll give the, but like I said, like the ones I defend a little bit are The Rock and Armageddon, you know. And even that Armageddon is like 30 minutes too long.
Yeah.
Like you could cut a lot of that movie. And also it's a movie that just like clearly doesn't give a shit about what story it's actually telling. It's just an excuse to do cool shit. Like none of it makes any sense. No asteroid has ever looked like the asteroid in that movie. But who cares? And everyone dies in it. I don't like, and
not everyone.
Not everyone, but it is a weird like Michael Bay like actually showing sympathy for the people that die in his movies.
Yeah.
Which he does in The Island a little bit. But then like that immediately leaves his movies in the Transformers era.
Ambulance might be more your jam.
Okay.
Also,
I'm gonna give it a shot.
The cinematographer, their previous credit was on Agnes Varda's Faces Places.
I mean, look, like good for them. That doesn't, I'm never someone who's like, oh, the cinematography has upped the movie for me.
No. Yeah, I love that credit. It's like, is Agnes Varda and Michael Bay. Like what? What a lineup.
That's also the thing where like Michael Bay is like oddly like a really like big student of film. Like he knows his shit too, which
his
is
fucking
what's
favorite
weird.
movie is West Side Story.
Yeah, like, and he maybe doesn't know how to put into words what's great about it, but he clearly knows shit. I mean, this is a movie where there's a whole there's a reason why they talk about homages in this movie. I feel like that's there for a reason. But this is also like, I think this is the point though where like it breaks on people that like now Michael Bay is just a fool, like, and he's gonna be that for a while until Letterboxd comes around and reclaims him.
Yeah.
Because I think Armageddon, like The Rock and Armageddon are two movies where like critics don't really like it, but they both make a shit ton of money, and then there are some people out there defending it, and there is this like, is Michael Bay the next thing? You know, like everyone's kind of asking that question, and they end up in the Criterion Collection. And it's like, is he going to be the next Spielberg? And are we doing to Michael Bay what we did this? Because Spielberg in the 90s is, now he's doing Schindler's List and Saving Private Ryan. It's like, oh, we did not realize the guy who did Close Encounters was going to do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we thought he was a populist kind of like young kid who's just got a lot of energy. Maybe Michael Bay will mature in a similar fashion. And not only like that clearly hasn't happened, but Pearl Harbor was basically like, no, that's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it doesn't just end up with Bruckheimer. He never works with Disney again either.
Yeah, well, that one makes a lot of sense.
I mean, but like this is Disney, Michael Eisner era, Buena Vista Pictures, like that's when Disney isn't. They don't just make Disney movies.
Yeah,
Buena Vista put out The Rock and Armageddon.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were doing different things at the time.
Yeah.
This is the studio that will eventually do the Pirates of the Caribbean movie. Yeah, that's a popular IP, but it still is a little different for Disney.
Yeah.
But
you can see the cut between that era of Disney and the modern, like, current
it's
iteration
Eisner.
of Disney in the Pirates franchise. The first three are of that old era. The next two are of the new one, and the drop off visually is absurd.
It's 100% the Eisner thing, even though Eisner I think exits like right as Pirates is coming out,
Yeah.
But there's that weird guy who took over that no one remembers, who like ran it for like 2 years, and then Bob Iger comes in.
Yeah, and Iger knew enough to keep the wheels like just running. He's like, "This working? Okay, I'll leave it alone."
Yeah, you need to leave it alone, and he did. There is that weird moment where like he tried to grow the Disney brand by actually making movies. Very briefly, and then all of those bombed, and then he's just like, okay, I'll just buy other people. And that worked.
And it's that's how all these fucking rich assholes think.
Yeah. Hey, I'm giving him a little bit of credit where he at least tried to do the right thing at first. He at least tried, and it didn't work. And instead of trying again, because that doesn't necessarily mean it will never work, right? Just maybe don't put all your cards on John Carter. But instead then he was like, okay, fuck it, just buy the competition, because it did work well with the Pixar thing. Was what kind of emboldened him, like he Pixar, I believe the story is they bought Pixar for like $4 billion or something like that. Is that how much it was?
Was it? I don't know. It was a lot.
It was a lot. It was a few billion.
Yeah. It wasn't that much of Star Wars though, was it?
No, so then it wasn't $4 billion.
Yeah, something like $2 billion, which is so fucking just more money than God.
All right, here it says Disney ultimately agreed to buy Pixar for $7.4 billion.
Never mind.
In an all stock deal. I don't know exactly what that means.
I don't know either, but $7.4 billion is wow.
Yeah, and then like Cars comes out and they immediately make all that money back through merchandising.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Like, and I think that was him being like, oh, we should just do mergers forever. Like, that's why he does it. So like when he looked at Marvel and when he looked at Lucasfilm, he wasn't looking at the actual properties, he was looking at the toy sales. And I mean, those are two things that sell a shit ton of toys.
Yep.
And unfortunately have like been very terrible with like their multimedia stuff. Like, it's so weird that that's probably why he bought those companies, and then they kind of have stopped doing that other stuff well. But hey, that's a whole other story.
Yes, it is. Okay, here's a question for you, so we don't have to talk about Pearl Harbor that much.
We're going to talk about Pearl Harbor a lot,
unfortunately. Which of those brands do you think Michael Bay would have been most like acclimated to had
Pixar.
He stayed with? Really?
No.
I was like, wait, well, there might be something there.
I mean, look, here's the thing. They should have teamed up. Because Pixar, one thing Pixar really does well is story structure. That's like the one thing they're really good at. And Michael Bay is really good at high visual impact, which is something that animation needed at the time. So maybe you should have come in and like produce something. I don't know. I don't think, I mean, maybe there's like a thing where it's like, okay, maybe like you bring in Michael Bay and have him do a Cable movie, right?
No,
You know,
now I don't care anymore. But yeah,
yeah.
I get
But
what you're
like,
saying.
that's the thing. It's like bring him in and have him do like a character from the '90s that isn't really a character, and just have him do the Michael Bay thing.
Mhm.
Like that's what would have happened, and people would probably defend whatever movie he made, right?
Mhm.
Like Michael Bay's Deadpool.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
not the worst idea.
No, no.
Not the worst idea on the planet. But also like not. I mean, it's one of these things where like you can go like, yeah, Michael Bay should have stuck to doing his own thing, and then it's like Transformers, Transformers 2, Transformers 3, Pain and Gain, Transformers 4, 13 hours, Transformers 5. Like that's most of his filmography now is Transformers.
Oh
like,
God, yeah.
which hey, he still got sucked into a machine somewhere. Which, what are you gonna do ultimately?
Yeah.
Paramount, which had the Transformers, is now like one of the studios that's like doing the worst.
They're kind of bouncing back though.
With what?
The Scream franchise being a hit again, and Top Gun Maverick making like $1 billion.
Okay, I guess Maverick, but that's one movie. You can't franchise that.
No.
Like,
But
that's-
they've had and the Mission Impossible movies do well. So
Oh,
they're
that's
coming
them?
back.
That's
Yeah.
them. I did not know that.
Yep.
I guess Michael Bay. I mean, I guess Tom Cruise. That's his place.
Mhm.
Did he almost buy Paramount or something?
Oh, I don't know about that. That's
I thought-
wild if that's true.
He almost like took over like a big role at Paramount, and I think that like it was one of those things that we talked about for 5 minutes and then didn't happen.
Yeah,
Is
because
their
he heard they were trying to
franchises-
fucking like spin off like Mission Impossible like characters and stuff like that, and he was like, "Fuck no, we're not doing any of that shit."
All right, looks like they still got GI Joe and Paranormal Activity, Ninja
Ouch.
Turtles, which I'm sure they'll try again at some point.
Seth Rogen's producing.
Oh, you know
like,
what the other
new
thing they're
animated
doing?
movie thing.
The other thing they're doing that's big is the Sonic the Hedgehog movies,
Oh right, see,
which
yeah,
have no right to be the quality that they are. Which is
well,
not
they're
great.
they're
but-
almost good.
Yeah, they're almost good, but not great. And it's weird. They also are, they have the other issue where like they did produce the like Indiana Jones movies, and they did produce the Marvel movies, and then both of those got taken by Disney.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also were the DreamWorks animation stuff. At least they distributed a lot of them. And then Universal has them now. So Terminator, they had Terminator for a while because like that was, they like the Terminator rights are so weird.
Oh, God, that's right. Yeah.
And are those back with, does James Cameron just own those now?
I think he owns them again. Yeah.
Yeah, good for him.
Mhm.
We'll see what happens. Hopefully he just does nothing.
Yeah. I think I talked about it. I talked about it fucking somewhere, but like, I when I went to Comic-Con this last year, I listened to Tim Miller talk about it.
Yes. Yeah.
And he was like, just look up Tim Miller Comic-Con 2022. Fascinating conversationalist. Not crazy about his movies, but I'm fascinated by him, and I think he's very fucking funny.
Mhm.
So
We're also
listen
two.
to comments on him.
We're the two Dark Fate defenders.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he seemed very passionate about moving. I just want to see him continue, even if I don't like his stuff.
Oh man, the other sad thing looking at Paramount is like the amount of franchises they've tried to bring back that have just like done nothing. Where it's like they've tried to bring back Coming to America, like remember they did that sequel a little while back.
Oh yeah, like just like 2 years ago.
Yeah, then they're doing another Naked Gun, which is such a mistake.
Aren't they doing it with like Liam Neeson too?
Is that the move?
I think so.
Oh God.
That's where we're at in culture.
I mean, there's kind of some precedent because Leslie Nielsen was kind of a serious actor. Like, like the thing that was funny about him doing it is that he was so straight faced.
Mhm.
The story is he got hired for Airplane because he never broke. And So maybe I could see it. Yeah, it looks like yeah, it is Liam Neeson, but it's also being directed by one of the Lonely Island guys.
Okay, so that might be something.
Yeah, it could be something. But I don't know. But also the other thing that doesn't give me hope, it's like, oh, like those elements, I guess I could see. There are currently 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 credited writers.
Never mind.
And I mean, some of that could just be like, I think some of it's like, because one of them was David Zucker and Pat Proft, who like created the Naked Gun, so maybe that's why they're there. But there's also like, looks like they brought the Reno 911 guy in at one point. Yeah. Seth MacFarlane's a credited writer on it. He's also a credited producer. Yeah, but like that's also not really a franchise. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Just do a cop parody, and like maybe don't do a cop parody. Actually, do like fireman parody or something.
Mm-hmm.
Parody a genre that people are actually care about now. Like maybe that's the move. That would actually be a good idea if you do Naked Gun. It's not as a new character. You just use the title and you just parody Liam Neeson revenge films.
There's like, something there.
That would be the move.
I mean, remember we talked about Silent Night or Violent Night. Fuck.
Yeah,
I'm messing up. But the Silent Night, Deadly Night, when that one director pitched in the remake and the producers were like, well, it's a little too dissimilar from the original premise of the film. Like no one gives a fuck about the original premises anymore.
Maybe there's just that, like now the ghost of Ghostbusters 2016 hangs over all reboots.
Maybe
like that just got such a negative reception online and they never got out from under it,
Mm-hmm.
And then that movie didn't do well because the movie wasn't good, but
it's fine.
I don't like that movie.
No, yeah, like I'm not gonna be fucking defending it. Compared to what was thrown at it, I'm like, I feel the need to just say, yeah. Well,
it's one of those things where I maintain that any Ghostbusters 3 would have been bad.
No,
like I think
I went on like a rant on New Year's Eve because Gene was like, "Oh, Diego, this song's for you," and then he played the Ghostbusters 2 song, and I was like, thanks. They're all fine. All of them are fine. And that was me being too courteous. They're actually bad. They're all bad.
I think what people remember is, I think if you grew up with that animated show, maybe you like that. And I've never seen it, so I can't judge it,
Hey, the best Ghostbusters thing ever is the Ghostbusters video game, which is actually entertaining.
It's actually
like
fun.
A narrative.
Yeah.
It's a great premise.
There's fun stuff to the Ghostbusters. It doesn't need to be a franchise.
Yeah.
But because like as the franchise is, I think what people don't understand is the franchise isn't really the ghost busting thing. It's Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, and Harold Ramis like in their prime, Ernie Hudson in their prime, you know? Like
what's Bill Murray up to?
Oh, hey, he's in the Ant-Man movie and doing
That's gonna
nothing
be a
else.
Fun press junket.
Yeah. It's, what I think, he's in that Ant-Man teaser or trailer or whatever, right? I feel like he would have been in a lot more of that trailer a few months ago.
Yeah.
I feel like they would have led with him.
The when they do the final epic trailer or whatever, I bet he's not going to be in it.
Either that or he'll have one line. Like that might be them, because I think they still understand enough that people still will pay to see something Bill Murray is in, right? Like for better or worse, that's the world we live in. So maybe it'll be like him being like, "Hey, Ant-Man, you're not an ant." Boom, Ant-Man's Quantumanium. Like something stupid like that. I guess they're still trying to do that Beverly Hills Cop 4.
Oh, yeah, now it's called Beverly Hills Cop AF.
Oh yeah, I heard
Because it's
that.
Axel Foley, but it also sounds like as fuck, and that's such a producer's fucking idea.
That is a producer's idea. That is we got to market this somehow.
Yeah, he's not just a cop. He's
the problem is
Beverly Hills Cop as fuck.
Yeah, there's a part of me that is like, I mean, sure, let's do another one, like whatever, but when the trailer drops and it looks like every other fucking movie out there. Like that was the big problem with that Coming to America thing, was that it looked like every other fucking movie that came down the pipe, you know? Like
Yeah.
it didn't look like I was watching a trailer to a Coming to America sequel. And like, not that like that's like a high bar of visual filmmaking, but it should have a different vibe than a lot like most things.
Yeah. And that one was a pretty big bummer for me, not because I like worship Coming to America or anything like
Mm.
that, but like that Craig Brewer had just directed Eddie Murphy in Dolomite.
Yeah.
And I like that movie. So I was
And
like,
Dolomite
what
at least
happened?
had a vibe to it, you know? Like
Yeah.
that, I don't know. Movies are in a bad spot right now.
We're coming off a great year for movies.
Yeah,
though.
it's a great year for movies, but like not like studio filmmaking, you know?
There some stuff snuck through this year. I gotta be honest.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I didn't
completely
like
agree with
it.
what you're saying, like otherwise, you know.
I didn't like it, but like Top Gun Maverick is like a well-directed movie, you know?
Yeah.
Like
Joseph
it's
Kosinski, he don't miss.
yeah.
I was joking, but like I kind of genuinely mean that.
I mean, hey. Oh, it looks like they also have the Quiet Place franchise at Paramount.
Oh, yeah, they're doing that too,
Yeah.
I guess.
I mean, are they doing a third one?
Up in the air, I think, right now.
Because the second one was kind of like had a meh response.
Jeff
Yeah.
Nichols was supposed to do like a prequel or something, and then he
Mm.
bounced to work on a real movie.
Okay.
So,
That's
I don't know
a
who's
good
doing that
move.
now.
Smart
Yeah.
move. That's just one of those like that. That's honestly a Quiet Place, and not to, but that would be like Jordan Peele trying to do Get Out too. You know,
Yeah.
like that. It's just they're not like in terms of quality, just like a big mistake if you're trying to build your name as a filmmaker. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
like it's like, oh, it's the franchise now. Oh, he's got a movie coming out called If. It's a fantasy comedy starring Ryan Reynolds.
Hmm.
Never mind. Ryan Reynolds just did a Christmas Carol movie.
Did he?
Yeah. Didn't you
Is
see
that
ads
what
for
that
it?
is?
I think that's what that's supposed to be. Because when I was looking up Christmas Carol movies, I was trying to figure out how many of them have been made. It was listed among them.
Oh.
And I think Will Ferrell is the Scrooge. Yeah, it's Spirited. It is a modern retelling of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol.
I'll never watch that.
You
Apologies
couldn't
to Will
just
Ferrell.
you couldn't just reboot Scrooged, you know?
Mm.
I mean, I guess now it's like 40-30 years. I guess you can do it, but like, man, Jimmy Fallon appears as himself in the film.
Oh, that's how you know it's
In
there.
case you weren't sold.
Well, hey, he popped up in Jurassic World and dies, I think.
He's
Do you
in
remember
Jurassic,
that?
He's in Jurassic World, but he's not in. You're talking about the first one, right?
Yeah.
He's like you go in that ball, remember?
Yeah, but the
And-
gag inside that video is that like he dies or something. Do you remember that?
No, I don't.
Yeah, like he's showing people how like safety in like a lab or whatever, and then the lab science juice gets all over him, and he's like, "Oh God, is this okay?" And then he like passes out or something, and then we never see him again. So I guess canonically, in the Jurassic World franchise, Jimmy Fallon is dead. This is not a joke.
As if I couldn't hate that movie more.
No, that's a positive.
No, it is, but like that's such a poorly constructed gag
Yeah.
that has no business being in that movie.
But it's also,
And now
I think when they're like they're in the tram or something like that. So
Well,
it's
yeah,
like,
they're in
why
the-
the fuck would they?
They're in those balls. Remember?
Yeah, so like why would they be watching that specifically in
Yeah.
those balls? Wouldn't it be like for the tram ride inside the labs?
Yeah, it's if you've ever done the Back to the Future ride, which is now the Simpsons ride, you know, they put you in that little room and it's like, hey, you're about to board the vehicle. Here's what you should and shouldn't do.
Mhm.
Like, that's where that would be. But then that's also means like, oh, is it a gag? Like he didn't follow instructions and he got hurt. Or is it a live feed? What the fuck is this? Ugh, fuck that movie. Fuck Jurassic World. Fuck movies. Fuck all movies. fuck this movie in particular because this is a bad movie.
Yeah, Pearl Harbor's terrible. We
Yeah.
haven't really been talking about
We
it.
haven't talked about it at all yet.
I'm the Michael Bay like defender. I'm like,
that
no,
was
no,
what
like,
I was looking for because you're Bayhem pilled, and
it's so bad.
yeah, it's really
so
bad.
boring.
It's boring. It was one of those like a struggle to pay attention to movies.
It is.
Which
It's
is like
rough.
you can say a lot about Michael Bay movies. They're not that. Like
Yeah.
it's wild that he made this, but it's a terrible movie.
So there's one credited writer. There's 4 credited editors.
Mm.
I'm willing to bet no one knew what to make of this. So Michael Bay's shooting style, for those that don't know, not a big planner. He plans the less the cameras, but most of the set production and design. Like he'll focus making them as big as possible, right? Like as you should. You're making a blockbuster. All the shit should look fucking huge. But he shoots with a lot of cameras. He gets a lot of like it's weird because it's like it's coverage, but it's always like maximum impact coverage. None of it's like ever boring, you know. But it's still fucking boring in this movie, and I don't know what the difference is. I guess is like he tried to make it serious and dramatic because it's a for those who don't know, Pearl Harbor, the movie, is
based on a real event. No,
it's a love triangle.
Yeah.
It's about a love triangle between lifelong friends.
It's the joke plot of like when you be like, oh, we're gonna do Titanic, but Pearl Harbor, what's it about? Like, this is the joke plot, right?
Yeah.
It's the
it's fucking dire.
Yeah,
like,
it's one of the worst choices you can make, honestly. Like, it's pretty terrible. It's shocking that it got by anyone, really. You know, like someone at some point should have gone like, make this better. You know, but I have a quote. Let me get it back up. Actually, I found this today because I was going through my old tweets. Because Twitter might not exist in the near future. I read a book called Disney War, which is about the Eisner era of Disney. That's a pretty good book. Here's a quote from Michael Eisner. Michael Eisner on the upcoming release of Pearl Harbor. There are no sure things in Hollywood, but this comes close. So that was the attitude.
Wow.
So I think people just were like, they had a checklist. It does meet the basic checklist if you like kind of like watch Titanic once. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it does that. An action director doing a romance, like that's unexpected. And people are like, yeah, this is definitely gonna win. And no one bothered to actually make sure it worked. Like it was like that Jeep I bought. It was like, okay, yeah, on paper this sounds good, and then the car died like a week after I bought it, and then it was like, oh, they were lying to me about everything. Thanks, Blue Sky Motors. Burn in hell.
Well, you know, like I mean, if anything, this kind of makes me want to give more credit to James Cameron. Like, because I know. Yeah.
The mistake I clearly made before going to see Way of Water was that I didn't watch Pearl Harbor again. I mean,
like a big part of I think the consensus around James Cameron, like even like the people that love his work, and some people have trailed off after True Lies. I know that's a big like mark off point for some people that are not crazy about Titanic or the Avatar movies. Like at the very least, I don't think anyone can argue those are poorly directed movies, right? Where this is like from top to bottom, Pearl Harbor, I'm referring to now, just baffling decisions. Everything looks like it's kind of like a perfume ad, you know? Like everyone looks very good in it because it's a cast of attractive actors and actresses, but it doesn't have like a purpose beyond that. So this is also, we have to mention, like Ben Affleck, Kate Beckinsale, and Josh Hartnett are our point of view characters. Specifically, Josh Hartnett and Kate Beckinsale for a patch of the film, right?
Which is the part of the movie that like give me like 3 scenes and I have to pick the real one. I wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah,
It's dire. It is anti-film. Like
it's oh god, it's I just feel bad like digging in on it even because it's like we all know.
Well, here's the thing. Like I was joking when we have a lot to say, but I have a lot to maybe say about the setup, Pearl Harbor, and then the Doolittle raid.
Mm-hmm.
And like, that's not most of the movie.
Yeah.
And it's like a 3-hour epic.
I know.
And like most of this you could just leave on the floor. Really what it should have been, if you ask me, like if I get this, if like this is the thing you're pitching and like I have to save this movie at the last minute, it'd be like make it about the Doolittle raid. Just that. Don't do Pearl Harbor at all. Maybe start with the Pearl Harbor attacks, get rid of the love story. It don't matter. Or like maybe weave it in a little better later.
Or Terrence Malick it and just cut him out of the film and then have them find out on the red carpet.
Yeah, but like make it about them training for the Doolittle raid, right? Because there's a lot, like they have to do a lot of the like, well, the planes have to make it X number of distance, and like that's a problem, right? Like they can't do it. So you have to make the planes lighter. You have to train to take off on a shorter runway. Like Michael Bay could make that movie, It's not a historically accurate movie, but it's a movie that's just like wall-to-wall action gags, I think he could make that. He can't make a romance set around Pearl Harbor.
I don't think he can make a romance.
Yeah, I don't know if he could in general. And he's never tried again, so...
No, there's a love story in Bad Boys too.
Okay. Again, I haven't seen that one of my, and I guess Armageddon has a bit of a romance, which was maybe the thing that like gave everyone a false sense of security.
Yeah.
Like there's that one moment where Ben Affleck and Liv Tyler are eating the animal crackers.
Oh yeah.
And it feels like Ben Affleck just improvised those lines. I don't know. And it's like that's like the one like, oh, they got chemistry. Right? Like but that's also a movie that's like the opening of that movie. The introduction of our hero is him trying to murder someone for sleeping with his daughter on an oil rig. And it's like, yep, that's America. But that kind of is. That really is.
A little bit, yeah.
But yeah, and it's just not. It's not here at all. And it's also like fucked up that they gave themselves like they put the ball on the tee in every way possible for the like meet cute, the initial one between Affleck and Beckinsale, right? Where she's a nurse. So she's a literal caregiver, right? She's like a sexy nurse. She's a caregiver. She's hot, but she'll also be your mom and clean up after you. Like that's what it is. It's sick, but that's what it is. And it's like her, and then it's like Affleck is like, I'm a man's man. I can do all the man shit, but I got dyslexia. I mix up the letters. And so it's like, oh, she sees him vulnerable. Like they took the easiest route imaginable there, right? Like
doesn't mean it can't work on film.
Doesn't mean it can't work. I mean, you can totally do it, but you should know kind of what fire you're playing with a little bit. I don't know if the movie totally realizes it.
I know it doesn't realize it.
Yeah. And then it's like, oh, and then she's got to put a shot in his ass, right? Like that's later. And it's like, oh, she's seeing his ass. It's like, yeah, there you go. There's your movie. And and there's nothing there. Like it's dead on arrival. It's just awful. And also, here's a question. I don't know enough about dyslexia to talk about this. But like dyslexia, you mix up the letters, right?
I think so.
It's also known as word blindness. So I don't know. So it is one of those things where like you can kind of dyslexia with enough help, you can live with it. Like I had 2 English teachers who both had dyslexia, right? Like it's like clear they became English teachers because they dealt with words so much. This is in that era where people just like, you can't read, fuck you. Like, there's no one's there to help you because it's the 40s. Does writing the letters out in order on a piece of paper help with your dyslexia? Like, isn't it equivalent to trying to read it on the board?
I would say no, but again, I'm no expert on either.
It's an eyesight test, right? Like, obviously, reading on a paper is easier than the eyesight portion, but isn't the dyslexia portion what he's worried about? Because then, like, she goes, "Hey, don't skip to the bottom, start at the top," and he can't do that even. Like, he starts mixing them up like almost immediately, and I just don't understand. Like, how is it'd be one thing because Josh Hartnett's there with him. Hartnett should have been like being like, memorize this order, like he has it right.
Yeah,
and it could have been a good moment of like, hey, we're bros, and just be like, oh, blah blah blah, like these are the letters in order. But instead he writes it on a piece of paper, which I don't know, just confused me. I was like, I don't know if that's how dyslexia works, but I just don't know. So
yeah, but also what do we get from that in the movie?
The dyslexia never comes back up, does it?
No.
Like, you could have done something with that.
Yeah. Also, I don't think you can be a pilot if you have dyslexia.
Yeah, you know what? It might actually be something because, like, I know you have to have perfect vision, and it is like remember that scene in Little Miss Sunshine? You've seen that, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, he's colorblind, you can't be a pilot, which is like depressing, but it's also like that's for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not something that you can just make up. But yeah, maybe you shouldn't be a pilot then. I don't know. I don't know the answer. Maybe you can. Dyslexia or something. Here's some fun Gringo lore. Want some Gringo lore?
Sure.
They thought I had dyslexia as a kid.
Oh, okay.
I had to start meeting with tutors and stuff to deal with it. And then it turned out I didn't have dyslexia. I was just terrible at spelling. They found out fairly quickly that it was like, oh no, this kid doesn't have dyslexia. He's just a fucking idiot. Like, I couldn't spell and I had terrible handwriting.
Okay.
So, yeah, there's a fun thing to learn about yourself.
Well, it's always good to hear character backstory.
Oh yeah.
Except when it's in this movie.
Yeah. Well, the only backstory is that they've been friends since they were kids.
Yeah. William Fichtner's the dad, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, I fought against the Germans. I hope you never see war in your life against the Germans.
Yeah. It's so like, that's not even like pointed screenwriting bullshit. It's just like hackneyed, like, this is gonna be about World War II. It's like, no, we know. It's called Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
We got it.
You think the Germans will ever be a problem getting kids? I don't think so. I mean, there's so many lines like that in this movie. I think I almost started the podcast by going, Diego, I think World War II just started. Which I think is the go-to bad line from this movie. I think that's one everyone knows. I mean, there are some really bad moments in general.
It's kind of like a parade of bad moments.
Yeah,
like, I'm really trying, like, as the Michael Bay defender, the Bay pilled, as you called me. Like, it's just how do you even, like, where do we start?
There was a part of me that was like, I was almost trying to like get ready for your take to defend this movie.
Okay.
It's like the shadow boxing I have to do before any movie now. Like, it's like, well, this is obviously terrible, but how would Diego defend it?
I don't have any.
And I was like, from the beginning, I'm like, okay, maybe this is like Bay's take on like a period romance film, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's like doing like a 50s romance drama,
Mm-hmm.
And there's a little bit of that in the beginning, like, where like all the ladies go out and there's the one who's a little saucier than the others, right? Like, and all the ladies are on the train being like, oh my God, I can't believe you saw his butt or whatever. Like, not great dialogue, but and then like they go to a dance and like maybe he'd do something with that, and then he just didn't, like
Yeah.
he just didn't do anything with it. It does feel like who said the quote about the train set? Was that Cameron?
I think that was Cameron. Yeah.
Yeah, where he's like that does feel like Michael Bay's vibe to a T. Like it feels like he is just trying to get to the train set as quickly as possible.
Which is why he should never do a drama again.
Yeah.
Frankly. I believe the myth about Michael Bay is he would light train sets on fire.
Mm.
And like
A little
record
similar
it
to
on
Spielberg,
super-
I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Spielberg's like the wonder of like capturing trains.
Mm.
And then Michael Bay's like, I'm gonna blow up the trains.
You know what's weird about Bay?
That's great.
You know what's weird about Bay? And there's some rumors about Bay that we don't need to get into.
Mhm.
But he's not married and has no children. And he's 57. And I'm not like, no one has to do those things.
Yeah, you could just be single your whole
You could be
life.
single your whole life, but it is a little like it might explain why maybe he's not like a romance guy. Maybe that's just something that doesn't interest him in his
Mhm.
life. It is kind of hard to tell what drives him other than the explosions,
Yeah.
other than like the high octane shit. And again, I'm not saying like he like that's a morally bad thing to do. That would be other stuff. But that would be maybe having an underage oh god, I forgot her name. What's her name from
Megan Fox.
Megan Fox? Didn't he ever like wash his car or something?
Oh, I don't
She
know
was
about that one, but she does pop up in a unfortunately saucy sequence of Bad Boys 2.
Yeah, I've heard that one. She was underage for that.
Yeah,
And
not
that's always
not
been passed
ideal.
off as that he didn't know that, though. There's some plausible deniability there. Do you remember, though? I won't go too into it, but there was a moment where there was like a lot of stuff, like it was like right when like Me Too was like in full swing. There was a lot of rumors that like Michael Bay's next. Do you remember this?
I do remember that.
There was a
like,
lot of it,
at
like
least talk about it.
any day now, Michael Bay. Like that was the story.
Yeah.
And then
it's
like
just,
nothing ever came out really. Like the Megan Fox stuff came out, which is its own kind of deplorable, right? Like
yeah,
it's bad, but it's not like a crime exactly, but doesn't hint at the best stuff.
No, and like she only kind of got to like to bounce back and have another chance at a career because she basically had to like apologize to him for the way he treated her on Transformers 2 and like I guess the other collaborations.
Yeah,
which is bad, by the way.
There's a lot of weird stuff about that whole like falling out that happened. Like,
yeah.
Because it's like Spielberg kind of came out and like publicly took credit for the firing in like a weird way, but like it's not totally sure if that's what happened. Like if we don't like that's one of those like we don't really know what the story is there. But then she is, she had to apologize to him, and then she is in the Ninja Turtles movies, which he produced. Weird. Megan Fox, it seems like she's kind of entering a weird territory in her life, but it was clearly not treated well by the industry.
Yeah.
And a real kind of shame. Is she still with what's his fuck?
No, I believe they are or have broken up.
Okay. Machine Gun Kelly. Yep. Oh no, they are engaged, you idiot.
Are you sure?
It says on Wikipedia they're engaged.
All right. Because I'm pretty sure that they
that feels like something that would be updated on their Wikipedia page.
Okay. Here, Online, Entertainment Online.
When was this?
Gun Kelly responds to Megan Fox after she says she's seeking a girlfriend.
But that doesn't mean
that they're not together,
because they're like doing that thing where like they have like blood vials around their necks and shit like that.
Yeah,
like,
it's just very strange. Yes,
so it could be one of those like we're in an open relationship type thing, and we're like like there could be stuff going on there.
Yeah.
See, the problem is his first name is Machine Gun. Because then if she married him, she would have to be Megan Machine Gun. If it was his last name.
Yeah, and that'd be way cooler.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Could you imagine?
Yeah, shout out to the new girl heads that tune into the podcast, because we all know that Megan Fox's best role is really in New Girl.
You keep bringing up New Girl. I guess I'll have to watch it one of these days.
You should. Just remember, it's written by liberals in the late 2000s and early 2010s.
I guess I gotta get a little more distance then.
Yeah.
I have to
every once in a while some stuff pops up and I'm like, oh yeah.
This era officially has to be closed that we're currently living through.
Okay.
And hopefully democracy will still be on the other end of it.
Yeah. Well, because there's like jokes about how like, oh, you want certain people in life to be predictable, but not your like weirdly emotional distant father. But you want like Vice President Joe Biden to be unpredictable. And like there's a lot of like Joe Biden jokes in sitcoms from the early 2010s. And I don't know why. But it keeps popping up.
No, I know why. Because everyone was like, well, his career is over. Like vice presidents never go anywhere. They really don't. Like it's really rare. The only vice presidents that have ever gone anywhere have been like Nixon, and because Nixon's Nixon and he lost his first election, remember? And or the other guy died, like, which are then like it's like Teddy Roosevelt, Truman, and fucking LBJ, right? Like those are the vice presidents that actually become something. So everyone's like, Joe Biden, no. And then like there was remember the Onion, Joe Biden was like the main character of the Onion, the whole Obama administration.
Yeah.
Which I think people, when they think of Joe Biden, they think of the Onion more than anything else. Like, in fact, I just typed in Joe Biden, the Onion to get some like headlines for me to read one. There is an entire Wikipedia page dedicated to Joe Biden, the Onion character.
Wow.
Because that's how much they were just all in on Biden. And it was funny at the time. I'll be honest. It was like Biden was selling T-shirts out behind the White House and shit.
No,
like
like simpler times, yes, but also just it was kind of fucking funny. Like we didn't know what was gonna happen. That's fine to like laugh about stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't tried to do the same for what's her name, because she is also such a non-entity.
I think that's why. Just like also, we talked about it before, but like racism and sexism. Yes, she does suck, but racism and sexism play a big part in like why she just has no cultural cash at all.
Yeah.
And she's not interesting. She's not a very good politician, or at all a good politician.
Yeah. She's not very good, but also
just in general, just right there.
But do you remember when the Onion like preemptively tried to do that with Clinton's running mate, whose name I can't even remember?
No, I don't.
Tim Kaine.
God, I have no recollection of
Does
that.
anyone even remember Tim Kaine? They tried to do it, but their idea was like their jokes were like Tim Kaine is a child, basically. That like he's an infant, he's a dope. Like it'd be like Tim Kaine, like amazed by bubbles or something like that. Like Tim Kaine running around like the whatever place in like his pajamas or something. Like that was were the gags. And I think isn't he a pro-lifer too? Like wasn't that the other controversy?
Yeah, because like fucking everyone forgets. It's hard to do this again, but like Hillary sucks, and
Hillary
like
sucks,
she's also a pro-lifer, not a pro-choicer.
Well, no, but to be fair, I believe both of their stances, which are dumb, but both of their stances they are personally against it, but think it should be everyone's right to have. Which I can at least understand that. But it's a terrible look for the head of your party that's supposed to be pro-women. So, just saying, you got to get the Catholics to vote somehow. I get it.
Yeah.
But like, don't make that the face of the party. That's Joe Biden's thing too. I don't believe Joe Biden has that stance, but he's like big with like the Roman Catholics. So like he fought to get like stuff about like covering what do you call it, like condoms and shit out of the Obama healthcare bill. Like any sort of protection during sex or whatever the fuck. But yeah, that's weird. You know what though? The Trump kids were a big part of the Onion during the Trump years. And have remained such to this day. Like they're still doing Trump kid headlines of like that they're basically, like rich kids, spoiled kids running around the White House, and they're dumb. I mean, hey, gotta have something regular to put out.
Yeah.
Remember when Joe Biden said this is a big fucking deal? You remember that?
I do.
Remember?
What a guy.
What a shirtless Biden washes Trans Am in White House driveway.
Jesus Christ.
That was the first official Onion Biden headline. Joe Biden, also known as Diamond Joe.
Jesus Christ.
What a different fucking time. Like, what a truly different time. Where like all the flaws that led into our time were present, but we ignored them. I mean, hey, thank God it doesn't feel like that anymore. I will say, what? I got to give some credit. Everyone is so fucking on edge these days. Like every little thing is treated like a loaded gun, which is maybe the attitude we should have about politics.
Yeah.
At least for the next decade. But that's my long way of saying I will eventually watch New Girl.
Okay.
Maybe give me a best of list. It's like 146 episodes. I don't know if I need to see all 146
No,
of them.
It's got a pretty consistent run until like the last 2 seasons, frankly.
Okay, well then maybe give me a best of for those 2 seasons.
Okay, yeah.
But or like I always think the first season of most sitcoms aren't great, but hey, I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, no, it's like a soft opening, and then it hits the ground running after a certain point.
Did what's her name like leave in the middle of that show?
Zooey Deschanel?
Yeah.
No, she got pregnant, so they wrote her out for a couple episodes so she could be on maternity leave. And then that's when Megan Fox's character comes in as the quote unquote new girl again.
Oh, all right.
And then she becomes a recurring character, and it's good stuff. It's very cleverly written.
That's actually pretty nice.
Yeah.
Good for them. Good for the new girl.
Yeah. I think you'd think by the 5th season it no longer new, but the original title was Chicks and Dicks, but they were like, you can't call the show that on.
They were also like, that's an objectively bad title. Call it New Girl. That's pretty bad. I would not. No. I would not watch that show, and I would not believe you if you said it was good.
Yeah.
It's one of those where like I can't say that title to another human being. Like some things are that bad. Mm-hmm. That's Licorice Pizza to me.
Oh.
Or I'm just like, I like that movie, but I can't go like, hey, you should watch Licorice Pizza. Like I'm like, never mind. Like, which I know what that's a reference to, but like, fuck off. Like, people not in LA. Like, it doesn't play in the flyover.
Yeah, not at all. People are just like, what the fuck is that title?
Yeah. Ligama Pizza.
No. Oh my god.
Sorry.
Pearl Harbor. I don't know how to bounce back from that.
Do you think the Pearl Harbor attacks were a good idea?
Well,
not to get too political.
No, of course not. However,
Diego, do you want to take a really clear black and white position on World War II?
My opinion is that 9/11 was bad, and freedom, well, that's just a little bit better.
Yeah. Take a hard stance that democracy is good.
I think
the stuff done in the name of democracy, that's another story sometimes.
Then again, they did call them the greatest generation.
Oh yeah. I mean, they were poor and they fought a war. You don't get much better than that.
No one's ever done that before.
Yeah, no one's ever done that in American history.
They had
It's
free
not like it's a
public colleges
recurring
back then.
problem in the 20th century.
Oh, okay. So some fictionalized events occur in the film. I don't know
Oh,
if you're aware of
really?
this. If you're aware of
Oh,
this.
oh, really? Some fictionalized events.
So when the
Diego.
actual attack on Pearl Harbor, they did not actually attack the general public locations like hospitals.
Yeah,
The
that did.
Japanese primarily attacked the military forces.
Diego, we cannot go all in on the mistakes because this is like noted as like one of the most historically inaccurate movies of all time. What I will say is that when the Arizona is bombed in the movie, this is more a filmmaking mistake. First of all, the Arizona, I believe, sank second, so it's like out of order. But that's a whole other thing. When that one's bombed, when the Japanese bomber is looking through his viewfinder, if you look, you can see the actual sunken remains of the Arizona next to the fake Arizona in the movie.
What do you think he meant by that?
I think it meant no one was paying attention. I believe you can see the actual Pearl Harbor Memorial in the background of several shots.
That's just
I think it's one of those.
Wow.
Like, yeah. But hey,
wow.
You know what's weird is that like almost all the characters in this are fictional, obviously, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Doolittle isn't, obviously, because that's John Voight isn't, because yes, Franklin D. Roosevelt was president of the United States.
Oh my God. We have to talk about that scene.
We got to talk about that a bit. But do you know who was a real guy? Cuba Gooding Jr.
Oh yeah. Doris Miller.
Yeah, he's a real guy.
Yeah, didn't he actually did the events that occur in the film?
Yeah, I believe he does some of the stuff. I mean, I think it's a little different because Michael Bay like wanted it to be more action packed, but like still, he shot down like 4 planes. Like the guy really did that. He could have made a movie about him.
Yeah,
but no.
Fuck.
Wow. You know who's good? You know what's like the actually good stuff in the movie, in my opinion? This might be a little controversial.
All right, go for it.
I like the Dan Aykroyd stuff in it.
Okay.
When he's like, I think they're going to hit us in Pearl Harbor, and be like, "You're crazy, Dan Aykroyd." Like, it's like he's as like Captain Wright, like, you know, like he's the guy who's like Captain 2020 Vision, like the one guy who was right. But I kind of like it. This is going to sound weird. This movie got a lot of criticism for how it portrayed the Japanese, right? Because they're like soulless monster people, right?
Yeah.
Like they just go through the motions. They're like just cold and calculating. They're just spies. There's an odd level of weight to it when the movie cuts to that stuff because the Japanese aren't like bloodthirsty in it, right? Like it feels like they almost feel like they're depressed they have to attack Pearl Harbor. Like they feel like they're obligated to attack. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I don't think that was the intention at all. But that's the vibe they give off.
So I'm willing to give you that one actually, because Michael Bay's like in terms of understanding why someone like me loves Bayhem, I have to constantly reconcile with the death of the author because there's no way he intends everything I'm reading in his stuff. Film critic podcast for Vice Victus brought this up when talking about Ambulance actually recently. The film is about veterans that cannot afford healthcare, a very real problem in this country, right?
Yeah.
They're left out to dry, so they go on a heist, yada yada. Action movie proceeds.
A fun fact also, look up the number of homeless people that are veterans. Look that up, and then think about that the next time you see a cop fucking kicking a homeless person's face in because they camped in the wrong spot.
Yeah.
Fucking put the troops first because they fucking stand for the flag. Go fuck yourselves, you pieces of shit.
Fuck all this.
Fuck everyone.
Now, in that film, Michael Bay used what a lot of people refer to as straight up experimental cinematography with the usage of drones, right? Because drone footage generally is like for documentaries, you're like, oh, here we can get like establish a location or whatever. And Michael Bay's like, I'm not just gonna establish locations. I'm gonna send the drones underneath the fucking cars, twirling beneath the freeway arches, like the craziest shit you've literally ever seen the camera do without the implementation of CGI. And it's sprinkled in there. It's definitely sprinkled in there. I'm not gonna say it's all practical. That would be ridiculous. So I brought up Vice Victor's take on it because he mentions that, like, so much of modern warfare technology is now on the streets of America. It's war brought home. It can only go inward because we're like conquering everything else, right? As the American empire.
Yeah.
And now we're kind of reaping what we sow. And so the very implementation of the same technology that allows the military forces to spy across the globe is used in the film, in a film about veterans having to use their military tactics to survive at home again. Now, did Michael Bay intend any grand apotheosis of ideas with that? Probably not. But it's a fascinating read, in my opinion, anyways. It makes the movie a little more interesting.
I mean, that's the Michael Bay thing, too, where it's like Michael Bay is clearly like, I love America, right? Like, he's definitely like pro-America. And then you like watch my movie, Transformers. And it's like... This is like, it feels that the Transformers movies feel like Al-Qaeda propaganda of like, look at the evil decadence of the West. Like,
well, that's another thing.
And then it's like, oh, and they make billions of dollars. Like,
yeah, but after the first 3 Transformers movies, because the Transformers are official operatives of the state in the first Transformers,
which is insane, by the way. Like,
in the next 2 choice. Yeah, but they're also refugees. There's
that element.
So they have to provide servitude to the United States of America to be considered citizens.
Yeah.
And then in the sequels,
they're hunted to extinction.
Yes. I mean, they're rejected by the very state that they fought for.
I mean, that could just be Michael Bay's whole like veteran thing, right?
No, it totally could
like
be.
That is
like the fact that it's in a big populist movie like that. And again, I'm not calling him a genius. I'm not saying it's intentional, but like, what? Isn't that like super interesting and compelling?
Yeah, it is. It definitely is. Again, as much as I diss Michael Bay, I love reading about Michael Bay. Like there's fascinating takes on it. It's that thing of like, it doesn't translate into me actually enjoying the movies.
Yeah.
But I can see other people it working for them, right? Like that's just where my line is. But,
no, completely. I mean, we're talking about fucking Pearl Harbor. This is one of the worst blockbusters ever made.
Okay,
I kind of believe that.
Yeah. No, it's terrible. This is a terrible movie.
Yeah.
Hey, Mako is in this.
Yes.
As Admiral Yamamoto.
Yeah.
Real guy who did not survive to the end of the war. He died, I believe.
Yeah, that's what not survive means.
I believe.
No.
I can't remember if he was shot down or if he was one of the like early kamikaze guys. That's a historic inaccuracy moment. There's a part where they're putting the bandanas on their heads. And that they did not do that at Pearl Harbor. That was a thing they did 3 years into the war when the kamikaze stuff started happening, when the Japanese started getting a little desperate. So like that was the signal that you would be a kamikaze pilot, I guess. He's allegedly the guy who said, I believe we've awakened the sleeping giant, which he probably didn't actually say.
Yeah. But you know what? I'll give him credit for this. That line makes sense to put in a movie that is essentially American propaganda.
Yeah. And you know what? It's from another movie.
Is it?
It's from Tora Tora Tora.
Oh.
What's interesting, though, is that Tora Tora Tora, which is also not like a great movie. I don't think anyone's going to bat for Tora 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 these days. Better title, though. which I believe that was the signal to attack. That when they said Tora Tora Tora, that meant they were like to go with it, you know. Tora 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 was a joint production by Americans and Japanese. The American half was shot by Americans, obviously, and the Japanese half was shot by 2 Japanese directors. One of them was the guy who did the Battles Without Honor or Humanity movies. You ever seen those?
I have not.
They're interesting. They're like Japanese Yakuza movies. Interesting stuff. So like that's interesting. So like all the Japanese stuff is, you know, it's definitely an American slanted movie because it was produced in America. But Toei did the other stuff. And it's interesting. It's more of a like, here's what happened type movie, right? Like it's a historic film, but like not a triumph of directing. Although, all right, it looks like the people on my Letterboxd are giving it good reviews, so maybe Tora 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 is actually good. I don't know. I haven't seen it in forever, and apparently you've never seen it.
I have not. No.
I believe that is where the line "I believe we've awakened the sleeping giant" comes from, which I think is a thing. It might have been out there in the world that like is allegedly what he said. Because that's kind of what happened, you know, like America had all these untapped resources, but we weren't in the war, and then we're in, and now suddenly like, okay, now the war's over, basically. Like the only way that wouldn't have happened would be if Russia had like sided with the Axis powers.
Yeah.
But Hitler and Stalin didn't like each other, so that didn't happen. But yeah, and it's weird because like I said, it's a more straightforward movie. You see it's interesting to see a movie like that because you see the Pearl Harbor is known as like this really dark day in American history, right? Like, like a day which will live in infamy. And it's interesting when you get to the Japanese stuff, and they're like, the grunts are like excited about the attack, you know? They're like, yeah, we're gonna get some action and stuff like that. Like it's kind of fascinating to watch it from that perspective, and it makes them more human than they are in Pearl Harbor movie, but it also kind of like makes it a little more like a lot darker because it's like they don't realize what's happening, you know, like especially if you're like just a soldier. And it's weird to see. It's almost like I want to see Pearl Harbor, this movie done from the Japanese perspective, like this romance movie, because that's almost a better movie, you know. Like
I never really considered that, but that could be. There might be something there.
Something there. I think it's hard. It's hard to do the specific theater in movies anymore. You know, like because we're essentially on good terms with the Japanese, and the Japanese weren't Nazis.
Yeah,
you know they were bad. Japanese were bad imperialists, but you know they're not as nakedly evil as the Nazi regime was. So it's hard to make movies about it, and it's why I think most World War II movies are about Europe these days, even though Pearl Harbor is what gets us into it. I mean, they did a Pacific, like a Band of Brothers type show, and I don't think anyone really watched it.
I did, but I don't remember it.
Really. Okay. And I think that's why, remember then, this might be something for awards next year. Clint Eastwood does Flags of Our Fathers. Remember that?
I do remember that one.
But he also did, he shot them together. He did that and Letters from Iwo Jima, which is the Japanese perspective on the Battle of Iwo Jima. So like, that's a really fascinating idea, right?
Yeah.
And Flags of Our Fathers was like, that's obviously the slam dunk awards picture. And then Letters from Iwo Jima ended up doing better critically. I think it made a lot less money, but it did better critically, and then that was the one that got nominated, which I don't think people were expecting. So that's that's an interesting film. Clint Eastwood's made some movies that didn't necessarily go anywhere.
Yeah, he's got some good ones. He's got a lot of good ones, and then he's got a lot of other ones.
Yeah, then he's got the other ones. But yeah, I don't know. It's complicated, all this stuff. But like I'm trying to remember. I remember one thing that was like explicitly anti-Japanese in it. that all right, I don't know if you know this, but I don't know how true this is because like there's so much stuff about fucking Pearl Harbor that like became rumors because it was such a propaganda moment, like it's such a like it got us in the war. But allegedly the Japanese sent us a warning that they were going to attack, right?
Right.
They said it, but then it didn't reach us in time. So it became more of a surprise attack than they intended. That's the story. I believe that's true. You've heard that, right?
Yeah.
I believe, if I remember in the movie, it portrays one of the couriers of the message as Japanese and kind of implies that they deliberately delivered it slowly. Not as bad as this movie, though, where I think this movie is like ramping up to argue that the Japanese internment camps were a good idea.
No.
That's what Pearl Harbor was doing. You know what I'm saying? Like they got the guy walking around with the camera, and you got him. He calls doesn't he call like a dentist or something?
Something, yeah.
Who's Japanese and is like, "Hey, can you see the ships from here?" He's like, "Oh yeah, I see some ships." And then he's like, "That was a weird call."
Excuse me.
It feels like it's making that argument, which I think Tora 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 was made in an era where we just tried to pretend we didn't, because that's one of those ones. Did you learn about the internment camps in high school?
You know what? I think I actually, to my education credit, I think I actually did learn about them in middle school. That I did learn about. Okay. It was like slavery and Native Americans that was kind of brushed over.
Well, those are two you just can't ignore is ultimately the thing. But Japanese internment camp is one of those ones where it's like, it feels like maybe we were given like half a paragraph one day, but I don't like, that was one where you learn like later that like, oh wait, that was a big thing that we did. And there's a lot of people alive today that were victims of that. And one of them was George Takei of all fucking people. And it's like, yeah, that's one of those, it's, because like people make that argument where it's like, well, we can't give reparations for slavery because no one is alive today that was actually a victim of slavery. And that's like, I don't agree with that, but that's an argument, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people alive that were victims of the Japanese internment camps, and we've done basically nothing for them. I think the last few years we've done like a little bit of stuff, but not a lot, And that was literally just America rounding up a group of people based on their race who have done nothing. I almost started a bar fight over the Japanese internment camps. Ever told this story?
No, please do.
I don't know. I was at a bar. It was that thing. I don't drink, but like I met my dad at a bar to like just hang out with him. And he was with a guy who like somehow like the topic of history came up, And I'm peak, like I'm Macaringo in high school. I know everything. Like I'm peak, like I think I'm a genius. And I'm like, and this guy, he brings up the internment camps, and he's the first human being I've ever met that like said it was a good thing that we did it. In fact, I don't think I've ever met another human being that has said it's a good thing.
Jesus Christ.
And I maybe didn't back down and said, hey, no, that was bad. And they're like, well, we had to do it. It was wartime. And I was like, there's no reason. They were Americans. Like, it's like, you can't just do that. Like I was going on, like, you can't give the government that power. And I maybe called the guy a fucking idiot, which he was,
record.
But also doesn't de-escalate an argument with a
drunk
man.
Sometimes, look, my whole thing about starting political arguments like that is that sometimes someone's being a fucking idiot, so you call them a fucking idiot, because if they weren't being a fucking idiot, you wouldn't feel the need to call them a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Like I get it.
I can only talk about this perspective from the white idiot perspective.
Okay.
Which is, I will say that this is just me being honest, that most Thanksgiving dinners, I make it through most of the night keeping my mouth shut. Because like, I'm like, what, there's nothing to be accomplished here, right? But there always comes a moment, and then it's just like, all right, I guess I'm ruining this. Like, I guess I'm blowing the evening up. And then it's like, I have to go in on it. And then it's like, it just escalates from there, And I remember big in the Obama torture era. I remember that or the torture stuff, and someone was defending the torture shit to me, and I remember a guy screaming in my face, being like, "You don't remember what it was like on 9/11," like in my face, and I wanted to be like, "You don't remember what it was like on 9/11 because you were an alcoholic in prison." But I didn't say that, so that's what makes me better than the terrorists. But yeah, and I yelled. This argument got out of hand, and at some point, my dad said, "Hey, we're just gonna leave you, buddy," and we just left the bar. And then my dad had to kind of talk me next. I was like fuming, like when you get when you get like in an argument, you're just angry at a certain point. Like
Yeah.
it stops being about anything. Like I was on the right side incidentally at that point. Like I was just pissed off. And my dad just like had to talk me down. And he was like, "You confused them with facts and logic." And them saying that was the right thing to say to teenage me. And I was like, "Yeah, it did, fucker." And then we left that bar. So I try not to get on my high horse too often, honestly, because I'm still a white idiot at the end of the day. But sometimes you can't shut up. Sometimes you just hear something so stupid, you just say that's fucking stupid, like you said, or you just reflexively do it. Do you ever do that where like you don't realize,
God, do I?
but you don't realize you're about to start an argument? Have you ever had that happen?
Yes.
Yeah, I've had that happen a few times. It's like I'm clearly not in. I don't have the energy to do the 7-hour argument that might start from this.
Yeah.
But someone goes like, "Actually, no, Hillary was as bad as Trump," and then it's like, "What are you, a fucking idiot?" And I just say it, and then I'm like, "Oh," then things escalate, and good times, right?
Yeah, I've been pretty good about either de-escalating or just outright avoiding lately.
Yeah, I don't have the de-escalation thing. I have avoidance. I don't have de-escalation. It is I have to be honest with myself, and I'm starting this argument, and then it's where it's gonna go where it goes.
Yeah, hey, sometimes there's nothing wrong with avoiding an argument.
Yeah.
Especially if they're a fucking idiot.
Yeah. It just depends on how much that idiot has a propensity to violence that ultimately influences me.
That also factors into it.
Is this person going to take a swing at me? And then sometimes it is worth it, because then it's like, am I going to get this guy to take a swing at me because I said I don't like Eddie Van Halen? Which did happen to me once. That's funnier than actual arguments that matter.
Yeah.
But hey, you can be like Mako. Mako, remember, he says in this movie, a smart general wouldn't go to war or something like that. He has some fucking line like that in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mako returning from our Avatar episodes.
Yes. Yeah. We talked about him one last time.
It's unfortunate how much I've just been poisoned by Avatar, because I just hear Uncle Iroh's voice when he was talking. You know what I'm saying? And he speaks Japanese for most of the movie.
Yeah.
So, God bless you, Mako. He had a hell of a last career. I believe he mostly did like World War II movies.
I think you might be right. I'm kind of
Conan movies
and RoboCop 3, which is
which no one remembers.
No, people remember it.
No one remembers that. No one remembers.
You don't need to, though.
He was Aku on Samurai Jack.
Oh yeah.
The shape-shifting master of darkness.
He got some great characters in that animated world.
He did. Yeah, it's like a weird last now that younger generations are gonna know who the fuck he is for a while. But hey, watch Highlander 3.
No,
don't watch any of the Highlander sequels.
Yeah, watch Samurai Jack, Avatar: The Last Airbender, and
Conan the Barbarian.
Which is a
great movie made by a lunatic. so it's relevant to this conversation.
Yeah, this is a
Um,
bad movie made by a lunatic.
Yeah, it is. That's actually an interesting question. Has John Milius made like a bad movie? Like
I'm
he's
gonna
like
say
ultra.
yes, just on principle.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I think you don't like Red Dawn.
I don't like Red
Yeah,
Dawn.
you don't like
No,
Red Dawn, and I can't really defend it, but I
no.
think it's a well-made movie.
I would say it's well made, but I don't like it.
Mhm. Wolverines.
Hmm.
I mean, the last 3 movies of his career are like 3 movies you've never heard of, so maybe. Um,
Wait. Let's see what do we got? What do we
we
got?
got
What do we
Flight of
got?
the Intruder, which some people know.
I don't know that
And
one.
there's the Motorcycle Gang, which is like a TV movie, and Rough Riders.
Hmm.
This is that weird thing where like he makes Red Dawn, which is like the biggest hit of his career, and then his career just kind of stops, and it takes him a while to get Farewell to the King made, which is another World War II movie. And I think Red Dawn, the reception of that as like essentially a propaganda film at the height of the Cold War didn't go over so well for him. But hey, I guess America does have a limit.
Yeah, maybe that's it right there.
Mm-hmm. Well, they interview. You've seen the Milius doc, right?
I have not.
Oh,
No.
it's pretty good. You should check it out. Um, there's a part in where they talk about this, and there's like a debate, like, was he blacklisted from Hollywood because of like he was too conservative for it? Like, there's a debate about it,
Mhm.
and I'll give the documentary credit. Like they go like maybe, but then like Sylvester Stallone, the interview, and he's like, look, like I'm out with my politics. It's never really been a problem for me. They just care about the money. And then I think Clint Eastwood even says, Clint Eastwood goes, they don't care if you're Lenin himself. Like they're like, they will, as long as you make them money, they'll greenlight your movies. So
This
like
is
that.
something I didn't know.
Mm,
That John Milius co-wrote Magnum Force with Michael Cimino.
yes, yeah.
That what?
And like allegedly
What?
like saved that movie. Like that, like it was one of those where like the script was a disaster, and like because like he also rewrote he's uncredited on the first Dirty Harry.
Yes, that I
And,
didn't know.
and then I think they had another script all ready to go for Magnum Force, and then they basically threw it out, brought Milius in, he wrote half, and then I think Cimino edited Milius's half. So
God damn, that's fucking just
he's uncredited
What?
on like a shit ton of movies, like stuff like that. I don't think we even know the extent of it.
Mhm.
Like Hunt for Red October is a big one. Like he did all of Connery's speeches in Red October.
Oh, well, that just makes perfect sense.
And it was that thing of like, I think Connery said like, I don't want to do the movie. I don't really have enough screen time, and there's not enough speeches for my character. And the guy producing it just went across the hall to John Milius, like literally across the hall, and just said, Milius, could you punch this up a little bit? And he did. It was a thing where like he couldn't get his movies made for a while, but he turned into like the best script doctor in Hollywood. So he's out there like rewriting everyone's scripts.
Yeah, you can make a fucking living off that. So
Yeah, that's what Carrie Fisher did for the longest time. Like people always like, they always try to make the joke about how she like didn't do anything for a while, and it's like, no, she was like running the table in Hollywood, like rewriting every script. Like she rewrote a shit ton of movies. And basically she gave an interview. She's like, I would love to do it, but they don't really pay enough anymore. Like that was her comment. And I'm like, fair enough. Like,
yeah.
Someone, for the love of God, should have rewritten this thing.
Yeah. I mean, because I mentioned the 4 fucking separate editors on this alone.
Yeah, but is that like a Michael Bay thing? Like, does he just have a lot of editors?
Let's take a look. Let's take a look. How about let's pull another one out of the hat. Transformers.
Yeah, Transformers would be the one.
3 editors.
Okay.
The first one. 13 hours. 3 editors. Okay. So maybe that is a Michael Bay thing because he's working with so much footage and like so much coverage, and like
does he have
like a pro coverage guy, but like he just gets the money shots and shoots everything on a telephoto lens and makes it look like maximum impact.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he needs help assembling all that shit.
Yes. He needs a lot of help.
Yeah. Which
But-
also explains like the fucking pacing problems he has a lot of the
Mhm.
time.
Yeah, there's terrible pacing throughout most of his movies. This one is probably just the worst,
Yeah.
though.
This is the one where I'm like, the visuals cannot carry me.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, 'cause
like there's
it's-
nothing.
It's also, I think part of it is that the action of this movie is so siloed, you know?
Mhm.
Like the action is fucking when he's in Europe for a little bit, right? Which they try to
Mhm.
get as much money of that like out of that as possible.
Yeah.
Also something that didn't happen, by the way.
Yeah.
Like we weren't sending soldiers over yet. That would have broken treaties. There were civilians who went over and fought, but no one officially from our military, right?
Mhm.
Then there's Pearl Harbor, which shouldn't be an exciting action scene, really.
No.
Like it's mostly just people getting shot. Like,
I mean, I've heard the defenses of this movie that I've heard are that the action during Pearl Harbor is incredible. I think the action is impactful.
Mhm.
I hesitate to call it good because it's like it's so wrong for
Yeah.
this story, you know?
Yeah, and I also think the Doolittle raid, I don't think it's great, but it has like more of a window into like what, like, because like maybe you're like, okay, this is Michael Bay, he's doing World War II, he's never done that, right?
Yeah.
Like it'd be interesting to see him do World War II. I think you get more out of that in the Doolittle raid than the actual Pearl Harbor attack.
I agree. Like maybe he should have just made like a man on a mission movie, you know?
Yeah,
Like
he should
give
have
him
done
the
that, or
fucking
should have
dirty
just
dozen.
done the Doolittle raid,
Yeah.
which I believe is already a movie. I think though.
Fuck it. Who
Like-
cares? Have him do it again.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't care.
But like, I've never seen that one. I think it's called like something over Tokyo. Does anyone know what I'm talking about out there?
If you do, comment below.
hit like and subscribe. Yeah, it's 30 Seconds Over Tokyo. Is the movie that he should have remade, and he didn't do that for some reason. So like, here's the thing: 'cause I know that like the movie was kind of pitched as being about the Doolittle raid, but somehow it became about Pearl Harbor. Like, I think that's the story with that. Is that just we were going to make a World War II movie? Titanic makes a shit ton of money. We like retroactively made it a Pearl Harbor movie, trying to tap into that.
I haven't heard that before, but I'm just looking up some of the production stuff, and I guess Bay did want this to be like a hard R movie to show about the horrors of war.
Yeah.
So you might be like on the right track there.
Yeah. Well, that also, the other thing was that like I believe there are some shots that like they had to make out of focus because they had to cut around the brutality. Like I think he
believe that.
shot an R-rated movie, and it like Disney was like, no, we want this to appeal to the masses, which made sense from a money perspective.
Yeah.
But probably the right call if you're making a World War II movie.
Mhm.
You can tell this is someone being like, it's fucking Titanic meets Saving Private Ryan. There's no way it won't work. And it's just like, that's a terrible idea. Like,
Yeah. Like, why would you do that?
it's bad. The attack on Pearl Harbor is mostly like unengaging, which is like weird to say. Like, you know, and I think part of it is that I think you're right. I think your brain just partly rejects an exciting Pearl Harbor attack, you know?
Mhm.
Like it's not, it's bad to watch.
Yeah.
Mostly watching guys like get shot, like the guys like who like just woke up from like sleeping and they just get shot. Like that's not engaging.
Yeah. It feels like it's huge, it's big, it's spectacle, and it's like this shouldn't be spectacle.
Yeah.
Like,
And the
Yeah.
other thing is, happens like midway through the movie is when it happens, right? Like
Mhm.
it's 40 minutes long, and then there's an hour of the movie left. Like that's bad for a movie called Pearl Harbor,
yeah.
you know?
Mhm.
Shouldn't that be like it would be like if Titanic had an extra hour on it about the Carpathia.
Yeah.
Like It's like that, how the Carpathia found the Titanic survivors is an interesting story. It wouldn't work as the ending to the movie Titanic. Like, and it's eh, it's not good.
No, it's bad.
The other thing I think did they bring up at all that like one of the things that kind of saved us was that like we got our carriers out of Pearl Harbor at the last minute.
I don't think that's in the movie.
Yeah, because someone was like, they do the thing where like Dan Aykroyd is the only one who sees it coming, but there were other people who were like, they'll probably attack Pearl Harbor. And they were like, well, we're not sure. We think they might make another attack like on the actual mainland if they're going to attack. And so someone had the bright idea being like, all right, let's split up the forces. So we got our carriers out of there. So the Doolittle raid wouldn't even have happened had our carriers been there. That's the other thing where it's like the way Pearl Harbor was kind of like a terrible base because the way I believe the entrance to the actual harbor was built, that like if one ship got sunk there, all the others would have been trapped.
Well, that's just a fucking like prime example of America building like a monument to itself. It's like we took over this indigenous land with beautiful tropical weather and this gorgeous landscape. Let's put a military base on here. But sir, it's not functional. It's like, no, it's gonna be great. A monument to our wealth and power.
We got to protect the world from Japanese imperialism. Let's take this country in the middle of the fucking Pacific and put a base there. And then when it's over, we're gonna make the Japanese give all those islands back, but we're gonna keep ours.
It's so fucked up. It's a fucked up country.
America. Hey. There's almost like there's very little Japanese actually in this, even though it's set on Hawaii, which does have a high like Japanese population.
Yeah, there's also like, am I misremembering, or are there no like Native Hawaiian people like in?
Yeah, I can't think of any now that you mention it, and it's like they were there. Like
yeah, they're still there. Like
yes, they are, and they're gonna be there for a while.
Yeah, they're still there despite America's best efforts.
Yeah,
thankfully.
Yeah, not great history there, but yeah, I don't know what the laws were at the time though, because like there is a point in this where like we do have Cuba Gooding's character where like he's black and he can't join the Navy at the time, right? Like that's still an issue. So maybe they weren't letting like Native Hawaiians on the military bases. Like I could see our government being that racist.
Yeah,
now
easily.
Now, why they're not just in the movie generally? It is set on Hawaii. Like, I mean, there's that problem, but I don't know. I don't know enough about that. But yeah, there's no Native Hawaiians in general in the movie. In fact, it seems like the opposite. There's a lot of white people on this island. A lot of white kids who like playing baseball at 7 a.m.
Well, that's America.
That's America.
That's just how we all grew up.
Yeah. Woke up, first thing we did, went and played some baseball.
That's how our grandparents grew up.
The greatest generation.
This is America, goddammit.
Yeah.
That's how we're built. We're built different.
Like the guy, I know that the guy, when he's informed the attack's coming, he's golfing, which is like such shorthand for being like our general's asleep at the wheel. Right?
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not what happened. Like he was in bed, like it was 7 a.m. It was, a lot of these guys were at home. It's the thing of like, he hears about it. There's not this dramatic scene of a guy running to Roosevelt, like he was eating lunch, And I like, it's one of those things where like, yeah, sure, dramatic shorthand, right? Like,
yeah,
fine, you want to, but there's so much of the movie has lost all goodwill by this point. We hadn't even talked about the movie's basically about Ben Affleck falls in love with the girl. He goes to England. They think he dies, and then she falls in love with Josh Hartnett, and then he comes back, and then there's a love triangle, which is what the first half of this movie's about.
And there's no momentum to any of it. Yeah.
When you're watching it, you're like, who gives a fuck? Like, really, It's
sort of like Wattpad fiction for World War II.
Yeah, but like, what? that's really insulting to Wattpad. Like, it really is. Like,
yeah, I
fan
mean,
fiction,
that's too cruel. That's
fan
not fair to
fiction
Wattpad.
does zero in on like character conflict and personalities.
Yeah.
It's more just about like, oh, now we don't have to do the world building stuff. Like the characters come pre-built. That's why people write fan fiction.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, oh, okay, now they're fighting. It's like, I don't know, like Cyborg and Beast Boy fighting over Raven. Like, that's all I can think of. I don't write fan fiction. But yeah, like it's like those are just personality types. There's nothing here for these guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know where these people come from.
Yeah, they come from the middle of America.
Oh, right.
They fly that little plane in the beginning.
Yeah.
Or the biplane. Like, wow, we should fly forever.
Also, this is one of the reasons why people didn't like Ben Affleck as an actor for so long.
No, this
right?
is catastrophic for both him and Josh Hartnett's careers.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think Hartnett ever really recovered. Like, he made movies, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's like Black Hawk Down and shit is like the next year. But I think the public is still like, I don't like Hartnett when I look at him, And I think it's this movie. And I think Affleck big time. This is like the moment the public starts to turn on Affleck. Where it's like, oh, he's the guy. He's kind of really personable and shit. And then it's like, no. Like, no more of this shit.
Yeah, and
goddamn Affleck's Wikipedia page is too long.
I will say, Josh Hartnett, really quick. I just have to say, like, he's a good actor and he's been in good stuff. You and I both liked Wrath of Man a lot.
Yes.
He's in Oppenheimer, and he's also in Guy Ritchie's next film, which apparently comes out this week.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
I did not know there was a fucking what?
Yeah, so it's like an action comedy with Jason Statham, Hugh Grant, Aubrey Plaza. And I guess it got pushed back because apparently some of the villains are Ukrainian arms dealers.
Oh boy.
So
you know what that means?
That means
now
it's dumb.
They're going to be Russian arms dealers.
Oh,
and then when the camera's on their face, they're going to mouth the word Ukraine, but they're going to replace it with Russia. I mean, that's all you need to do, really.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's a shame. That's
not their fault.
Yeah, not their fault, but that's got to be playing in like 3 theaters, right?
Yeah, like it's getting dumped because no studio wants to touch that right now.
Yeah. That's a shame. That is honestly a shame.
Yeah. But no, I really liked him in Wrath of Man. It was like he's just a fucking little like sweaty dweeb, but he's like a pretty boy. Like that's a fun like new type of role for him.
He's also in that James Franco movie that never got released.
Oh, what?
There was a James Franco movie. He shot it in like 2015. And I think he sold it to like a studio, and like it's been just getting passed around. And I think since James Franco's been canceled, it's just kind of gone away. Like,
do you remember what it's called?
It's called The Long Home.
A Long Home. And James Franco directed it?
Yeah, James Franco's directed like 20 movies while you weren't paying attention.
I remember there was some other stuff he directed. I almost said did, but
he had a movie. He's had let's see, 1, 2, 3 movies come out since The Disaster Artist.
Jesus Christ.
You haven't heard of any of them?
No, I did hear about Future World because everyone was like, what the fuck is that?
And
it's
like
he's got Mad Max ripoff.
Yeah, but he's got a shit ton of movies.
Yeah, I remember hearing about Zeroville because everyone was like, don't fuck up Zeroville, and naturally he fucked up Zeroville.
Mm-hmm. I mean, what are you gonna do?
Yeah. Yeah, he's gone, so that's good.
Yeah. I don't know. He seems like he's testing the waters for a comeback.
Oh, I'm sure he is.
Yeah.
Like all these fuckers are.
Yeah. I'm waiting for Harvey Weinstein to get released from prison. Which will probably happen at some point.
Don't put it out there.
I'm just saying, like, it would be the perfect illustration of people who'd be like, the Me Too movement went too far.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, Harvey Weinstein and Bill Cosby are free. Like, Harvey Weinstein, not yet, but he'll find a way out. He really will. He's got more money than you.
That's true.
Because it's not about
Most
not
people
about
have more money than me.
yes, but that's the thing. People, I think the lesson everyone learned wrong, and this is me being a white idiot explaining this stuff, um, everyone's like, well, we should cancel people publicly, and everyone's like, actually, that's wrong, and everyone's so focused on that. And really, what it is that there's a massive power imbalance in Hollywood, and it's probably not just Hollywood; it's probably every industry in this country, and there should be more power given to the workers, and there should be more of a social safety net so people can, if they're being sexually harassed by their boss, they can leave the job, right? And not have to worry about losing health care or food or their house. That was the real lesson we should have taken away. Because you can't really, unfortunately, you can't really stop sexual harassment, right?
Right.
Because there's always going to be a monster, and they always figure out how to navigate things. But you can make shit like that a little easier for the victims, and you can make the victims less,
Mm-hmm.
And that the way to do it is to make it easier for workers to leave their jobs. And right now, that is the exact opposite narrative in this country. Everyone's too worried about how much power workers have because of the supply chain. Go fuck yourself. That is our least patriotic episode ever.
Yeah, which is fitting.
No, I'm like, that was not being me sarcastic. I am glad.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the most patriotic scene in the movie, though?
It has to do with John Voight, right?
Yes.
Okay. How do we even tee this up?
All right. John Voight is FDR, which is an interesting choice.
Yeah. John Voight, who is a crazy person.
He's a crazy person who's also a bad person.
A bad person. His daughter doesn't talk to him.
We'll be making a second appearance on this retrospective. I won't say.
Oh my God, I forgot.
I won't say where. In what might be released the same year. So that narrows it down.
Whoa.
Very similar in the playing a historic figure and wearing lots of makeup thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
The weird, John Voight's back, which happened for a second,
He also played the leader of a private military organization in the 7th season of 24. And that he's very good in that. And then he gets blown up.
It's sad. I have to admit, he's a good actor when he gets good material and wants to do the work.
Yeah. It just happens to be a piece of shit.
Yeah, he's just a bad person. Yeah. He plays FDR in this. There's a big scene where he's meeting with people and they're like, well, we got to do something. This is the type of insights that made him president. He's like, we got to do something now that we've been attacked. And his generals are like, I'm not sure about that. Such a silly scene.
It's so dumb.
As if every general wouldn't be like, let's attack Canada because fuck it. That's America. That's the Rumsfeld quote where he's like, we were being during the 9/11 attacks, he said, we should bomb Iraq because they have all the good targets, which is an actual thing he said. That's America.
That's fucking just, oh my God. How are these people not in prison? I know why they're not in prison.
He's dead. Don't worry. He died.
Yeah.
Rumsfeld's dead and no one cared when it happened. You could almost say his death is an unknown known, which is another thing he said.
I have to wow. So I
could quote members of the Bush administration for about 7 hours unprompted.
So I have to backtrack slightly to talk about my first viewing experience of this.
Okay.
My dad.
Did they show this to you in schools?
They did later, but I saw it before. I saw it in high school.
I saw it in middle school, motherfucker. And Forrest Gump.
I saw this in middle school as well, but okay. So my mom and dad get divorced, right? My dad.
People want to fucking talk about critical race theory in school. Sorry,
it's so fucking stupid.
We watched Forrest Gump and The Prince of Egypt, which is an outright religious film. I was in a public school.
Wow. That's a banger, bullshit. By the way, though.
It's a good movie, but they shouldn't be allowed to show it to kids in public schools.
Oh yeah,
I'm sorry, unless it's teaching animation history. Even then, I'm gonna be like, I don't know about that. Not to be that fucking guy, but separation of church and state. It's gonna be alive for about 5 more weeks. But That's one of the big ones. So go fuck yourselves.
All right, my parents are divorced. Dad moves around for a little bit, and
Sorry, no, sorry. I thought you were like, oh, I went, everything okay?
oh,
Then, like, why were you gone? And you went, so my parents got divorced. And I was like, oh wait, I already know this about you.
My dad works for the California Gas Company, right? He works with a tight knit group of guys. One of the guys, is like a movie obsessive, right? And so he has like this fucking library. Like it's like discovering the Sistine Chapel at a young age, and I'm borrowing DVDs from everyone, right? And in the shelf, I'm everyone's a fucking little weirdo obsessed with World War II at some point when they're like a young boy for some reason. Or at least a lot of guys are. I was one of those weirdos, I guess. And so I was like, oh, Saving Private Ryan's the best movie ever. And then he's like, well, have you seen Pearl Harbor? And I was like, no, I haven't. And so he shows me the director's cut copy with an extra single minute of footage. And so I was like, well, I gotta watch it. And it came in like the 2 box set, like hours and hours of special features, whatever, right? And so I watch it, and even then, I'm like, this is not what I expected. But so I'm watching it with my dad, and I'll never forget the moment which we were leading up to initially with John Voight standing as the president of the United States, who this never happened because he could no longer walk.
Yeah, you can't will that shit back.
Yeah. And my dad was just like, this is insulting. Like, and I was just like, what? I couldn't like really wrap my brain around what wasn't working at the time. And now I think I have a better vocabulary that I can at least try to describe what's not working, not just at the time, but eternally.
Okay.
In this movie.
It's insulting.
Yeah, it's insulting. That's it. That's really it. It's just
I think your dad cut to the bone pretty quickly on that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
He got it. But wow.
Yeah. I don't know who thought that was going to be a good idea. I guess everyone did.
Someone's like, there has to be a moment here with FDR. That's what happened. And I don't think they knew a way to do it in a way that mattered.
Yeah.
I mean, they wanted to give something to FDR, which I understand, and they're also, this is made by a bunch of capitalists, so they can't have FDR being like, we have to do this like I did the New Deal or something. Like,
oh yeah,
they can't actually reference his actual accomplishments, like, because for a while, I don't know if people know this, but for a while, like, there was kind of like a 50-50 split in this country on the New Deal in like the 90s and 2000s, which is, I think now that as work is getting worse and worse for people, I think we're starting to realize that maybe the New Deal didn't go far enough. But hey, yeah, so would this work in a movie that was just bullshit?
No, but
like, it's not about, like, it's a movie just kind of about like a country at war or something,
and
or
like the paraplegic leader stands up,
like to show that like anything is possible if you will it or something.
No, and I'll tell you why. So we both know that Barbara Gordon Batgirl was crippled by the Joker in the 1980s comic The Killing Joke, right?
Yes.
And there's been a lot of debate about whether or not she should remain Oracle, who has become like a very big symbol of representation for wheelchair-bound audiences, right, and readers. And then there's like, well, it was kind of insulting what got her there in the first place. Like, there's good debates about that. It
is a complicated one because, like, it is kind of bullshit, like how she got there. But then it's like it's that thing comics books do, which is why it's like impossible to have a genuine conversation with comic book fans, unfortunately, where it's like a lot of bad shit happens for bad reasons, but then other writers do good stuff with it, you know?
Yeah. Like, and so it's like smarter people than us are having those conversations, and like it's a tough cookie to crack. Some people who did not really crack that discussion were recent Batgirl writers. I don't remember who wrote it. I just remember seeing the panels because I wasn't reading comics at this time. I'm still really not.
When is this? What air? Like, is this recent?
This
recent
is
like
recent, like a couple years recent. Okay.
okay?
The current Batgirl run, she is, I believe, no longer paraplegic, right? But
Well,
she
yeah.
has,
When the new 52 happened, they retconned it to like whatever happened was temporary. Like she was in the wheelchair for a bit, but then she like recovered either through like sheer tyranny of will or like Wayne Tech. I don't know.
I think
Like,
it's like Wayne Tech or something like that. So she's fighting some villain right now that like ended up like crippling her with like technology or whatever.
mm,
And so she carves it out of her back and she's like, I still have enough to stand on my own 2 feet or something like that. And she stands up and fights the bad guy. And it was like unanimously rejected by readers everywhere because they were like, this is fucking bullshit. Like
Yeah.
this is just gross.
it is that thing of like, if you're gonna bring Batgirl back, just ignore the. It's better to just ignore the Oracle thing than to actually try to reckon with it. You know, like if you're
A
gonna
little bit.
if you're gonna do that, like I would argue you shouldn't do that, but I get the argument for like retconning it. You know, like I get that it's complicated. It is complicated.
Yeah.
Now, because comics are bullshit that we just made up, and like bullshit happens all the time, you could totally just do some nonsense where it's like, hey, the portal to Earth 3 opened up and the Batgirl from that Earth is here and she didn't get shot by the Joker, but Oracle is also here. So now there's 2 Barbara Gordons. And now you can do both stories. So now shut the fuck up. Like,
yeah.
You know, like you can do, because comics are nonsense that you can just make things up for. It is that thing of like, it's a universe where like Superman can like do anything, but he can't like do anything for Barbara Gordon's back, you know, like and you just have to ignore it, right? Like that's just comic books. And it's so if it can't stand up in a universe like that, it probably can't stand up here.
Yep.
I regret using the phrase stand up.
I wasn't going to say anything.
It took me a second. But you know who liked this moment?
Roger Ebert.
No, the nostalgia critic.
That makes it even worse.
Yeah.
That makes it so much worse.
There's a nostalgia critic review of Pearl Harbor where like he doesn't like the movie. So like we're on the same page, but all his criticisms are really dumb. So it's like if you wanted to see someone have a bad correct take, check out the nostalgia critic's review of Pearl Harbor. And hey, why is the nostalgia critic reviewing Pearl Harbor? Are we nostalgic? We're not nostalgic for the movie or the attack. So
well, didn't he say like Mad Max Fury Road? He's like, oh, it's like a Roadrunner movie.
Yeah, he's like, it has the same brilliant simplicity as the Roadrunner. And then some WB executive saw that and was like, put that in Space Jam: A New Legacy.
We live in hell.
We kind of do. So this movie doesn't look so bad now that you mention it.
No, it's still bad.
It is bad.
It's still bad.
You brought up Ebert though.
Oh yeah.
Can I bring up his review?
Please do.
Here's something where this movie like got bad reviews, but it's mostly people going like 2 stars, 2.5 stars in like back when it came out. Ebert went all in and gave it 1 star, 1/2 star.
Hell yeah.
Here's the opening. Pearl Harbor is a 2-hour movie squeezed into 3 hours about how on December 7th, 1941, the Japanese staged a surprise attack on an American love triangle. Its centerpiece is 40 minutes of redundant special effects surrounded by a love story of stunning banality. The film has been directed without grace, vision, or originality. And although you may walk out quoting lines of dialogue, it will not be because you admire them. Which that's just Ebert just bodying this movie. Like,
yeah. When he hit, he fucking hit.
Yeah. He had his moments, you know. Ebert. Every now and then. He's still like every now and then he would say something dumb. And then every now and then he would say something correct, but it would take us a while to realize he was right.
And then every other time he would just be incredibly horny, and you'd be like,
Oh yeah, the
buddy."
weird like Ebert horny reviews.
Yeah. When those
the-
sneak through, it's pretty funny now,
Mm.
but it's like, yeah, it's probably good that he's dead.
But Siskel was like super horny though.
Yeah.
Like Siskel was much hornier, and part of that was that like I believe he used to hang out at like the Playboy Mansion and shit.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, like he was one of those. Like, he was like a genuine like 70s swinger type.
Oh my God. I
And you
didn't
can
know
find
that.
you can find like some really weird pictures of him. I don't mean like the bad kind, you know. Like there were guys in that era who just like they just had a lot of sex
Yeah.
and did not do horrible things. And I haven't heard anything about that. Just that was Gene Siskel's life before he met Roger Ebert and decided to which is the one Ebert liked Cop and a Half and Siskel liked Carnosaur. Was that it?
I thought Ebert liked Carnosaur.
Oh, all right.
Am I forgetting it?
Which one like Benji the Hunted?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know that one.
Those are the ones where it was like Benji the Hunted, Carnosaur, and whatever the other one I just said. Those are the ones Cop and Half were like they just didn't forgive the other person for it. All right, Ebert gave Benji the Hunted a thumbs up. All right, Carnosaur. Siskel liked Carnosaur.
Wow.
Yeah.
I liked Carnosaur when I saw it on the Sci-Fi Channel when I was 8 years old.
It's a fun movie for what it is.
Does it hold up as a what it is movie? Not
I
a
like
real
it, but I
movie?
like those type of movies.
Yeah, well,
like,
I
I
saw Carnosaur 2 also. They did a Carnosaur marathon one time.
Yeah, Carnosaur 2 is like Aliens, but with dinosaurs.
Yeah, slam dunk.
Yeah,
Or so you'd think.
It is one of those where like it is like this is so dumb. I wish it actually had a budget. Like
Yeah.
you want to. It's like the Dino Crisis movie I want to see, like which will never get made.
There's a movie trailer that's come out recently. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah. Does it
That
not look good?
No, I think it could work.
Okay.
You play it straight. You don't wink at the audience. You just
Yeah.
play it like a fucking straight thriller with a goofy concept. I think we have a fucking classic.
Yeah.
Potentially.
I think the problem is like no one knows how to do straight anymore either. Like movies are either winky or they're like deadly solemn,
Mhm.
like they're like they take themselves way too seriously, which isn't what playing it straight is.
Yeah.
It's playing it straight is kind of the John Voight scene in this movie. it's so like oddly earnest, but it's like so misplaced. Like, don't do that. Like, it's bad.
Oh, here's a positive note we could start ending on.
Mhm.
Critics in Japan received the film more positively than in most countries, with one likening it to Gone with the Wind, set during World War II, and another describing it as more realistic than Tora Tora Tora.
That is interesting.
Now, that's super interesting, in my opinion, because people like James Cameron, Michael Bay, pure visual maximalists, tend to do very well overseas.
George Lucas.
Yes. Internationally,
Yeah.
these movies, like, they have so much more acclaim. And again, I've talked about it before, but it's like the visual acumen, the visual vocabulary of cinema is so much more versatile overseas than in America, where like we've talked about the reasons why, but a lot of it, standard coverage, wide shot, close up, and these guys are like fucking Michael Bay is just he's probably broken like 500 cameras in his career or something, right? Like,
I do question the veracity of this story though, if I'm being perfectly honest.
That's fine. It just let me talk about how for some reason other people like his stuff outside of here.
Yeah. I mean,
I just always find that super interesting.
You're correct. I mean, I think that's true. I think that it is the argument for why movies should put the visuals first, which is so silly to like feel like we shouldn't even have to argue that, right? Like that should just be the go-to. But yeah, because like that when it's visual, it transcends language at a certain point, like, and then you don't really need you don't need to care about the shitty dialogue, right? Like you're just watching the action. It's interesting. I just questioned the Japanese thing because it does feel like this movie was hit really hard with the portrayal of the Japanese.
Mhm.
And this is a story from Variety from the year 2001. And it says it did big in Japan, isn't it made? I assume it means it made money. And I just feel like that maybe was floated to Variety to
make it look better than perhaps it was.
Yeah, it just feels like one of those.
Yeah, those happen all the fucking time.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna name names, but there was maybe a big movie star who petitioned to play a superhero, and their superhero movie kind of bombed, and maybe their team started leaking stuff to certain outlets, and then other outlets had to correct them, and now studio executives are mad that someone might have fudged up some numbers and all that jazz. Who knows? The point is, you are correct to assume and suggest that stories are leaked to press all the time.
Yeah, but I would say like it might explain, because it's that weird thing of like you watch Michael Bay movies and there is kind of a like, this can only appeal to an American who does nothing all day but like drink Mountain Dew or something, right? Like,
yeah,
like it's just pure insanity, and America just like id and just like crypto fascist like undercurrents. And they make huge box office overseas. Like it feels like it shouldn't, right? You know, like it feels like, but I guess if you cut out, if you go just by the visuals, it can have a wider appeal. Now it looks like it doesn't have that as much appeal anymore, but I don't know. International box office has gotten even weirder.
It's gotten very strange, and like but to the credit of Michael Bay again, Transformers the Last Night was like a monumental bomb. Here, it did very well overseas still. That's where the majority of the box office came
Although
from.
I have something that might counteract your argument.
Oh.
And not to bring up these movies, but the last few Pirates of the Caribbean movies have bombed here and done huge overseas.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
so,
can't win them all.
And I don't think those are any visual powerhouse movies.
No, they're not. But it's because people used to like that lead actor, and now weirdos still do.
But Orlando Bloom isn't in the sequels.
That's what did it. They got tricked into thinking he was in there.
Yeah, they thought that's who Salazar was.
Yeah, and so by the time he does come back for the cameo in the fifth one, they already tuned out. That's why that one bombed too. Kind of, I think.
There's no fucking way they're doing that Pirates reboot at this point, is there?
I don't think so.
Yeah, because that like
the Margot Robbie one's dead in the water.
Yeah,
and so is they're not bringing back that other actor, Orlando Bloom.
But but also a big part of that, just to cut some things off, is that part of the reason why they wanted to reboot it is it got too expensive to hire the other actor.
Yeah,
like he was getting like a lot of the money, and I don't think they wanted to do that anymore. Which is, a Hollywood thing.
Yeah. Although to be fair, if you're not going to pay one person, that's probably the person you don't want to pay.
Yeah. The most expensive guy, that money could go other places. But
the most expensive guy with back end deals, insurance requirements,
it says here
safety hazards.
It says here that the Margot Robbie one is still in the works.
I don't think it's canceled, but it's not. It's out.
It's my thing where, like, honestly, if I'm just not to give too many thoughts on this, I think it would be irresponsible to release a movie like that, at least right now. Especially if it's like we're gonna have a woman lead, a woman writer, and a woman director, because they're gonna get a lot of shit thrown at them, and the movie would have to be like really great,
Yeah.
And I don't want to see Ghostbusters 2016 happen again.
I get you.
And I get like I want more films, but like it's just the studio will leave the actual people that make it out to dry.
No, totally. And I mean,
Yeah.
also speaking of the visual downgrade between the Pirates trilogy and the Pirates 4 and 5, like
Mm.
the way they make Pirates 1, 2, and 3,
Mm.
they will never do again.
Yeah, they'll never do it again. And it's just like, and Pirates movies are notorious for like, don't make those because they're like
Yeah.
impossible and the budgets are super high, you know?
Yeah.
Like it is one of those like, don't do another pirate movie.
Yeah, like who's the cinematographer? Darius Wolski, I
Mhm.
think, is the guy who shot the first 3 and the fourth one. You can kind of tell it's the
You
same
can
guy
tell.
from 4.
You can.
It's
Because
the
4
director who
like at
fucks it up.
least starts kind of okay.
There's lighting in that one.
Yeah.
There's directed lighting. There you go.
Yeah.
It's the barometer of quality we're going with here. But the first 3, like they look like fantastic. And Darius Wolski was on like I think Team Deacons talking about how like it was kind of a nightmare to shoot, but it was also so creatively invigorating because they're like, no one's gonna fucking let us ever do this again when we're done with the last one.
Mhm.
And they're out at sea, not like fully at sea like Jaws, but they're in the ocean.
Yeah.
And they have to like control the lighting, they have to time sequences, and
It's
like
still a nightmare. Like
it's
it
a
just
fucking
is.
nightmare when you're using an actual daylight, but it looks so good still.
Yeah.
It
There's a
just
reason
does.
why, like, when I think of summer, I kind of think of the vibe of those movies. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
they're
completely.
so visually there with it. Yeah. I mean, who knows what? We'll never let Gore Verbinski do another one, will he? Like,
No, he should do.
I'm not
more
saying he
stuff,
should.
though.
I'm not even saying he should. I'm just saying like they just wouldn't let him do it.
I know. Like I always tell you, like Gore Verbinski Star Wars, but they'll never let him do it on
Yeah.
his scale.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still a little. I think it might be the script though. I think if he had a good script, so yeah, but he might be the guy now. Like the more I think about it, but he would need a really not Pirates of the Caribbean sequel script.
Tony Gilroy.
I mean, maybe, yeah.
There you go.
I mean, Tony Gilroy's Star Wars thing was a little too self-serious, but
Okay, well, we talked about that.
Yeah.
It's like you like the elements, but you just want the other elements there too, right?
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want I guess I want all the Star Wars elements that aren't fan service.
Yeah.
And I want them all on one plate. So, and then also like a new thing. You got to bring something new to the table. But I can't. The more you read about Hollywood, it's impossible anything original gets done. Like even with like franchises, you know.
Yeah.
Like I said, like if I like not to talk about Star Wars, but like
it happens. It's
if
fine.
I were pitching another Star Wars, it would be like, we're not going to do Jedi, we're not going to do Sith. There's not going to be any lightsabers in it. Like that would be my pitch for the movie. And then it's like I'm like escorted out of Hollywood by gunpoint. Like it's just like they would like no studio would bite for that, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just like, well, you got to have that because what do we put in the trailer? And I'm like, I don't know, the fucking title Star Wars, like, but I also don't know how like audiences would be receptive to that. And then it honestly, to bring it back, it does explain how a movie like Pearl Harbor gets made. This is like someone going like do Titanic again. And so you kind of can't do Titanic again. Like, is there any movie made in the wake of Titanic that actually worked? That was like trying to be Titanic?
No. I can't think of a single one.
I have one, but it's kind of like really Titanic adjacent. Like super adjacent.
Oh, Pompeii.
No, you idiot, but you're kind of in the right ballpark. I think Gladiator, you can draw a line from Titanic to Gladiator.
I kind of see where you're going with
like
it.
The historic epic is like if you take, because that was when studios could at least be like, okay, you can take some pieces of it. And there is, even though his wife is dead for most of the movie, there is the like eternal love thing underneath it, you know? Like, I think that's where you get, and then you can draw a line from Gladiator, I would argue, to Pirates of the Caribbean. In fact, I know that's true because I think Eisner said that was part of the reason why he greenlit Pirates of the Caribbean. because they wanted a historic epic. And I believe some of the score from Gladiator is reused in the first Pirates movie.
I'd believe that.
Yeah. So there's that. But I think it's important because Diego and I were talking. This movie came out the same year as The Fellowship of the Ring,
which is so much fucking better.
So much
than this
fucking
movie.
better. And also like a much better indicator of where Hollywood is going at this point. That it's about to become about these big franchises.
Yeah.
I mean,
Also, the 2000s, all the franchise stuff is mostly dedicated to trilogies, trying to be a trilogy.
yeah.
Right? And then after that, they start resuscitating everything, and it just goes on forever.
Well, the MCU is the one that finally proves you can do this forever.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can just make as many films as fucking possible, which is not good, but that's where we're at. Although, you know what, like laid the groundwork for that, I would argue.
Pirates?
Not Pirates.
Okay,
Although Pirates
like...
Pirates maybe a little bit. I would argue it's Fast and Furious films, which they just like can keep bringing back. People go see it. The Saw movies, but that's horror, you know.
Yeah, horror always operates a little differently.
But then one that I think falls perfectly in between, I think, are the Resident Evil movies.
Oh,
which are horror action movies, and that's one where it's like everyone made a fourth one trying to embezzle money, and then it made money, and they didn't know what to do.
They're like, I guess we'll do more.
I guess we'll keep going. Which seemed to be that should have been the subtitle for like one of the later ones. Like, I guess you want more. Like, I don't fucking know. But yeah, 2001 is this moment where it's like genre is about to take off in a big way because the two highest grossing movies that year are Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings, and then next year is Spider-Man, right? Like, so it's like that's the future. It's the thing hanging around the corner. But Pearl Harbor did manage to be the sixth highest grossing movie that year. Without me about like half the money that Harry Potter made. So, which was the highest grossing film of that year. Remember Harry Potter?
I'm just gonna let you keep going.
Remember when like they were like, who are we gonna get to direct it? Gilliam, Spielberg, fucking Del Toro, and then I was like, what if we get the most boring guy in Hollywood to do it? And then I was like, here's $1 billion, said the public of the world.
I think his best movies are those first two Harry Potter movies.
You might be correct. Chamber of Secrets, though, I don't know if you've watched it anytime recently, because why would you? But it's like it's really long.
It is very long. I like them.
Mm-hmm.
I like them. I'm sorry.
I'll be honest. I like, in a weird way, I like that it starts so generic kids movie and starts to turn darker, you know?
Yeah.
I don't think it succeeds, if I'm being honest. But at least, you know, it is so I cannot tell you. I rewatched these like 2 years ago. I cannot tell you how fucking jarring it is to go from two Chris Columbus movies to fucking Azkaban, where there's a handheld camera in like one of the early scenes. It was like, honestly, it was like being like getting yanked out of a sensory deprivation chamber.
Well, I'll tell you the fucking brilliance of Chris Columbus with those movies is the production design is impeccable,
immaculate, and the casting. Like,
it's perfect.
It's perfect casting.
Perfect. And then Alfonso Cuarón's like, all right, that was cute. Now watch me do it.
Yeah. And the other crazy thing is that, like, not only is the casting good for like the supporting cast, but they accidentally happen to pick 3 kids that grew up to be the characters they were cast as. You know what I'm saying? Like, there could have been a like, we're at movie 4 and like suddenly Harry Potter doesn't look like Harry Potter anymore, right?
Yeah.
Like that totally could happen and it didn't. So weird. Rest in peace, Robbie Coltrane.
Yeah. Oh my God. Sorry you didn't get a better ending in the Harry Potter movies.
Yeah.
What the fuck is that? I always get pissed off about that. I'm gonna try not to bring that one up anymore.
He's what was his ending in the Harry Potter movie? I don't even remember.
He's barely in the last two, and then he's chained up, right? And then he carries Harry's body, and then Harry comes back to life, and then they have the showdown, and then Harry gets like a single moment with everyone, like it's a fucking cameo fest. And then Hagrid just kind of, he doesn't even hug him. He just kind of like pats him on both shoulders.
That
and
is
goes,
kind of how
"Harry."
the book ends, though, too.
Yeah, and it fucking sucks.
Yeah, the book ending does suck too.
Yeah. I tried to be like, make peace with it for so long, and now I've made peace with it in that it's bad.
I don't actually hate it in the book as much. I hate the epilogue.
The epilogue's fucking awful.
The epilogue's really bad. But what I don't mind it, but like the movie is so weird. Where again, talking about visual medium, where it's like I get wanting to do like a fan servicey ending, right? Where like you see all the characters one last time, but like they go like half in on it. You know what I'm saying? So like you get like awkward moments like that with Hagrid, and then like I get everyone in the book died off screen, right? Like you don't see
perspectives and shit.
Yeah, like why? But like a movie's different.
I'm 99% sure we've talked about this before, but that's just how fucking bad and annoying that decision was.
Yeah,
it haunts us over a decade later.
Yeah. Because it's so obvious. Also, it's one of those things where, like, it's like that was your only chance. Like, we're talking about how perfectly cast it is, right? So you have this great cast, and they kind of maintain that through like most of the movies, right?
I think like all the way through, frankly.
Well, my whole take is that I think the first few are like impeccably cast, and then the last few, it's like A+ casting on at least one or two of the people in it, and then some of the supporting ones fall a little flat. And part of that is just they don't flesh out a lot of the supporting characters in a way they would need to, right? Like mainly, I would argue like some of the like Dumbledore people, some of the Order of the Phoenix people, and some of the like Voldemort Death Eaters.
I would completely agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay. If you're saying that, yeah.
That's my only thing. So it's like you just wasted like the best cast version of this movie, right? Like, and then it's like also. The original vibe was, and now we're gonna have to wait like 20 years until they decide to like reboot it to like maybe do a better version. And now it's like, and now we're just never gonna do a rebooted version. Like it's like now we gotta wait for the author to either really do a 180 and really make some amends, which won't happen. Or we can wait for time to do its job on all of us. But yeah.
Pearl Harbor.
Yeah. Not as big a betrayal, but pretty big. I apologize to the world.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine. I don't think we really talked about which ones we're gonna do next.
Let me look at the list again real quick.
Yeah. Here, I will.
All right.
I can do the number generator again.
Yeah, let's do that.
So we'll have 8 choices, 8 potential choices. All right,
I think I'm going to add one more, but I'll talk to you after the recording about that.
Okay. All right, here we go. All right. No, this is not the one I wanted to do next. We're doing Nixon next.
Oh boy. Oh fuck. Okay, I guess we're doing that.
Oh, this is we're hitting the sauce hard.
Yeah, don't worry. It won't turn out like the JFK episode.
Okay.
Like, I know shit about Nixon. I don't know enough to go 12 hours.
Okay. So everyone, watch Oliver Stone's Nixon.
Yep. The director's cut.
The director's cut. Yes, and we'll be back next week to talk about it.
There's one moment with the CIA that I don't believe is in the theatrical cut that you need to see because that is related to JFK.
Okay, fantastic. So until then, Matt, thank you for joining me. Sorry about making you watch Pearl Harbor.
Hey, but now I get to watch Nixon.
Yeah.
Sorry, you have to watch Nixon.
No. I mean, we talked about on the JFK one. I liked Nixon. What I saw. It's just
but it's also it is insane.
There is a direct line between those films and red-pilled conspiracy theories. So
I hope
I hope you enjoy Ambulance when you watch it, frankly.
I hope I do too.
Yeah, I think
know?
Bad Boys 2, if you can get on the fucking, it's an exploitation movie, basically.
Yeah, you know me. There are fucking movies like that I like.
Yeah.
You know.
So if you get on that wavelength, I think you'll enjoy
It
that.
might be a little weird watching it now.
Yes.
but hey.
Yeah. Until then, links to where you can find us down below. I'm not gonna make us call off because we don't know what the fuck social media is gonna be in the coming year.
It's
usual
in-
links, they're there.
in some rough shape.
Yeah.
But let's see if I can predict where things are heading. Tesla stock dropped 12% today, and it's continuing to go down. It's the biggest one-day drop in a 2-year period for Tesla.
Fantastic.
Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. Goodbye, Jonathan Demme.
Goodbye, everyone. Hey, we've been professionally unprofessional. There we go. I got it.
Yeah, you did it.
Woo!
Yeah, America. Oh, we didn't talk about Team America.
Oh, we don't need to. I think we got the job done.
Pearl Harbor sucked, and I miss you.